The story opens with a scene in a hospital room where a man lies unconscious in bed. A wilting flower in a vase can be seen on the bedside table, and then all of a sudden, some of the petals fall off the stem and onto the sleeping man's face. That's about where his slumber comes to an end because he suddenly jolts up from the bed. His eyes shoot wide open like he just woke up from a horrible nightmare, with his face covered in sweat. The young man breathes heavily as he looks around the room frantically and then realizes that he doesn't know where this is. He wonders where he is and instantly realizes that he's been reborn. It's all really confusing for him, so he checks to confirm if he's truly been reincarnated. The protagonist lifts the blanket to take a look at his feet but is horrified to see that his legs are missing. His legs have been amputated from the knee down, and it's a really big shock that leaves him in tears. The young man is really devastated at this point, but then it occurs to him that he doesn't know what the time is either. He squeezes the sheets in rage, wondering what time it is now, and his little episode is suddenly interrupted when a ginger-haired girl walks into the room. She calls him her brother and looks really surprised to see him awake. For some reason, she's wearing really skimpy clothes, but that's not the point right now. Tears of joy suddenly run down her face when she realizes that her brother is finally awake, and before the protagonist can even say anything in response, she rushes to him and wraps him in a hug. The young man seems really taken aback, but he just stays quiet and lets her embrace him. The girl claims that it's really great that he's awake and then promises to catch the hit-and-run driver who put him in the hospital. The young lady makes this vow really passionately and also assures our man that his legs will be healed as well. At this point, the memories start coming back to the protagonist, who finally recalls what happened to him and why his legs are gone. He gets really emotional as he thinks back to the car accident from a year ago that led to all of this. The protagonist was run over by a speeding vehicle and left for dead by the reckless driver. In the blink of an eye, he was turned from the youngest billionaire in the country and the chairman of the Rising Sun International Group to a cripple. In the flashback scene, we see that Shen was abandoned by the hit-and-run driver until some of his workers found him there. A red-haired lady in particular was the one who found him and alerted the others to call an ambulance. Since then, the protagonist has been a cripple and his life has never remained the same. In a flashback scene, we get to see his earlier days at the hospital when he was still focused on treatment. As a result of this, he was no longer able to run his company, and it didn't take long before he was betrayed. While Shen King was in the hospital receiving treatment, his most trusted friend, Xiao Tiankai, someone who he considered a brother, took the opportunity to seize the company. At first, the guy kept playing the good guy card, but after a while, he decided to show his true colors and betrayed the hero. He even threatened Shen's health to force his sister into marrying him. That was the only way he would keep providing treatment for the cripple, and so his sister had no choice. Unfortunately, Shen saw all of this happening right in front of him, but he couldn't do anything. He was absolutely helpless, and all he could do was yell at Xiao Tiankai to let go of his sister. That day at the office, Shen was practically lying on the floor helplessly as he watched his former best friend take advantage of his sister. The protagonist tried to make Xiao stop, but the traitor just called him a dog for barking and went on to do as he wished. The poor girl who had to suffer all this could only shed tears and beg her brother to save her, but unfortunately, he was just as helpless as she was. Shen King pretty much had everything taken away from him by the bastard Xiao Tiankai, and all he could do was weep bitterly. Sometime later, a game called Divine Path emerged. It was jointly developed by multiple countries with 100% realism, which pretty much meant that the in-game currency could be exchanged for real money. The game quickly became a global sensation upon release, but not because its currency could be used as real money, but because of a very special key point, which is the fact that the character attributes in the game could affect reality. This should have been Shen King's best chance to change his fate, but at the time when the game came out, he was absolutely bankrupt. The protagonist was a penniless cripple, and it doesn't really get any worse than that. Without the ability to spend money, he couldn't obtain good resources at the time, and it was starting to look like he might be stuck in mediocrity forever. He had completely lost the capital to compete with Xiao Tiankai in any way at all, and with each passing day, his odds of survival kept getting worse. The treacherous bastard who stole everything from him used the wealth extravagantly in the game and was able to acquire the best resources and attributes. Since the game is famous for affecting reality, everything that Xiao Tiankai did in there manifested in the real world, which elevated the traitor to an unrivaled height. As you can imagine, Shen felt that all of that should have been his, and it left him really bitter and angry. With this hatred that had gathered in his heart, Shen came up with a plan to get his revenge on Xiao Tiankai for good. He wanted to take everything back from the traitor, so he set a trap and invited his former best friend over. When Xiao arrived, he mocked Shen's place, calling it a broken doghouse, and wondered why he was invited. It turns out that the house has been covered with explosives all around, and Shen had the trigger. He wanted to take Xiao down with him, but the guy just found it all amusing that Shen thought this would kill him. Enraged and desperate, the protagonist detonated the bombs, determined to kill Xiao no matter the cost, and of course, a massive explosion followed. When the dust settled, Shen was fatally wounded with all of his limbs gone this time around. His body had been severed in two by the explosives, with his lower half nowhere to be found. On the other hand, Xiao Tiankai was completely unscathed, and the guy just felt sad for Shen. The protagonist couldn't believe his eyes, so the guy made it clear that he's practically invincible with the kind of power he's gained in Divine Path. That being, all of the explosives won't be enough to even singe a hair on him. At that point, it was pretty clear that Shen won't survive, so Xiao decided to tell him one more thing before he finally dies. The guy steps on Shen's head, and that was the moment he revealed he was responsible for the car accident and the death of Shen's parents. The twisted man revealed that all those horrible things were his doing and then went on to taunt the dying man, reminding him that the last bloodline of the Shen family will bear his surname even after all he did. Xiao Tiankai let out a villainous laugh after saying that, and it just pushed Shen to tears once again. He was horrified that someone he trusted could do something like that. Despite everything, the protagonist was still unwilling to give up, and even after Xiao squashed his head, his spirit still refused to surrender. The flashback comes to an end at this point, and back in the hospital, we see that Shen can now remember everything that happened to him. He's somehow been taken back in time to when he first lost his legs in the car accident. The crippled man doesn't know why he has been reborn, but what he knows for sure is that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. When looks over at his sister and tells her to stop crying, claiming that he'll just start laughing if she keeps sobbing all over his body, Shen knows that he's been given a second chance, and this time around, he is more determined than ever to protect his sister as well as the fruits of his parents' labor. The ginger-haired girl finally wipes her tears and promises to stop crying. Seeing her innocent face, Shen makes a promise to himself that he'll tear that beast Xiao Tiankai to pieces. Even though he wants nothing more than to destroy the traitor right now, his disability is already in the picture, so he wonders how he can turn things around. As soon as he thinks about this, he remembers that this is about the time when the Divine Path game launched. He also knows that it will take at least a month before people will discover its ability to affect reality, so this is his best chance to turn the tables. Xiao Tiankai hasn't taken over his company yet, and he still has access to money since his accounts haven't been frozen yet, so this is the time for him to act fast. His sister notices him frowning, so she asks if it's because his legs hurt, but he doesn't say anything, so she figures that she needs to call the doctor. He stops her before she can run out the door and then tells her he needs something urgent from her. The girl is pretty confused when she hears this, so she asks him what the matter is, and to her surprise, he asks her to help him buy a gaming pod, specifically the Divine Path gaming pod. This is quite baffling to his sister, so she asks him again to confirm that she heard him right. Unfortunately, that's about the same time the villain walks into the room. As if on cue, Xiao enters the scene as soon as Shen asks for the gaming pod, and the nosy villain curiously asks him when he started playing games. Shen's sister is excited when she sees the traitor, but the protagonist doesn't let go of her hand. Suspiciously, Xiao Tiankai tries to discourage Shen from getting the gaming pod, claiming that there won't be anyone to run the company if he gets addicted to gaming. Hearing this, Shen just glares at the guy, wondering if he's already being tested. He's not sure what's going on in Xiao's mind, and he definitely doesn't want to reveal his plan, so he claims that he wants to take up gaming since he's now just a cripple who can't do anything else. At this point, it almost as if Xiao already knows what's going on. The villain talks about the Divine Path gaming pod being released that same day, and since only 100 units are available for now, he reveals that a single gaming pod would cost 300 million. Hearing this, Shen can already tell that Xiao is trying to discourage him, so he reminds the guy that he's still in charge of the company's finance, so he makes it clear that he'll get a gaming pod even if it costs him 30 billion. Seeing how serious Shen is about it, Xiao gives up and agrees to get a unit for him. At this point, it's clear that the traitor is still clueless because he's really happy that Shen will be distracted with the game since he feels that it will make it easier for him to seize the company in the chairman's absence. With this in mind, Xiao promises to have the pod delivered soon and assures Shen that he will take care of the company with his little sister, Tong. The snake tries to get all touchy with the girl, so our guy just pulls his sister away from him and makes it clear to Xiao that Tong will be staying back at the hospital with him tonight. He pulls her close to himself and glares at the traitor for trying to touch his sister with his filthy hands. Seeing this, Xiao Tiankai can definitely feel the tension, so he backs off and takes his leave. The traitor goes out of the room and just stands there for a while, feeling really upset. He looks at the siblings through the window and is absolutely furious. Xiao can't believe that the useless killer he hired couldn't do the job and finish Shen off. With this in mind, he just leaves the hospital in disappointment, thinking that he would just use a tanker truck to run Shen over next time. Back in the hospital room, our guy quietly tells Tong to transfer all his money into the game. As you can imagine, this sounds insane to the girl, so she asks him why, but he just tells her not to ask. Shen also wants her to sell all the company's stocks, and this just makes her panic. She's afraid that her brother might be terminally sick or something, so she asks him what's going on. In response, Shen assures her that he's not sick and tells her he just needs to bet big. It's definitely a big gamble, but Tong does as he asks, and 3 hours later, we see that he's all suited up and seated in the $500 million gaming pod. The old is ready, and so is our guy, who is currently on his way to Divine Path. Shen activates the pad, and it only takes a few seconds for him to be transported into the game world. As soon as he's there, it's pretty obvious because he has his legs back. He's so glad that he can move freely again and is impressed by how real the legs feel. Just then, a window pops up in front of him, prompting him to name his new character, so he names himself Ko Ju Wang. The moment he's done with this, the game system greets him and then several giant warrior characters appear right in front of him. This is like the welcome menu, and then he's asked to choose his class in the game. Seeing this, he realizes that this is just like his previous life when he had to choose between warrior, mage, ranger, assassin, priest, knight, or summoner. Unsurprisingly, he chooses the same class as he did the last time, since it is the one he's most familiar with. It turns out that the crippled multi-billionaire resonates more with being a ranger, so he makes his selection and is immediately dressed as one with a cool cape. At this point, Shen is delighted to see that everything is the same as it was the last time, so it's not time for the next step. Just then, another window pops up, informing him that he's triggered a special reward, Elf Bloodline, since he's a VIP user of the gaming pod. So basically, the Elf Bloodline is an epic reward which grants a born ranger favor from the elves. The epic effect of this reward is that he's bestowed strength, and 10% more accuracy, critical rate and evasion, as well as a 15% increase in his movement speed. That's not the only perk he gets for being a VIP user of the gaming pod, because he also gets a special skill called the Book Reward. This legacy reward helps with weakness detection by identifying the target's weak points. Besides just detection, attacking the weak points will also deal 150% to 200% damage. This skill also consumes 20 mana and has a cooldown time of 120 seconds. All classes can use this skill, and our boy is delighted that it's just the same as before because he's already mastered it in his previous life. As one of the first 100 global VIP users to purchase the gaming pod, he receives congratulations along with one more reward, which is a special exclusive treasure chest. Just then, the shiny box of treasure appears in front of him, and he's taken aback by this because the chest wasn't there the last time. Judging by how it's brimming with power, Shen figures that the most important talent ability must be inside, so he reaches for it. As he's about to touch it, another note appears, revealing that the special treasure chest contains a rare talent ability. To unlock the chest, he's required to first recharge 50 million gold coins. As you can imagine, that's a pretty huge figure, and the protagonist is taken aback by it. He didn't expect to be met with such a huge requirement because that sum is equivalent to 500 million renminbi, which is the official currency of China in this story. Shen King is pretty confused at this point, but after contemplating for a short while, he decides to recharge the 50 million gold coins. After all, if he doesn't spend the money now, then that bastard Xiao Tiankai will spend everything later. With this in mind, he just gets pissed and recharges what's required. He is aware that talent abilities are a random attribute that every new player can acquire, and rumor has it that players obtain rarer talent abilities the earlier they enter the game. As such, he's already really ahead of his nemesis in this department. In Shen's previous life, he got an additional damage bleeding effect which helped him immensely in countless battles. The protagonist recharges 500 million gold coins, and makes up his mind to spend big in this life because he's determined to get something bigger. A prompt pops up in the form of another window asking if he wants to open the chest, so he clicks the yes button, and the treasure chest is opened right away to reveal the amazing stuff inside. Shen is blown away when he lays his eyes on the treasure that was in it. That's when we see that he got the incredibly special talent ability to evolve everything. The protagonist is surprised that such a talent even exists, and the look on his face suggests that he's about to go crazy with this skill. Without wasting a second, Shen evolves everything that he can about himself, and it only takes a short while for the evolution to be successful. Everything about him has been significantly improved, so he smiles confidently, quoting a parable of how the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. After this major upgrade, Shen begins to doubt that the evolution and divine talents can easily be acquired with 50 million gold coins. The protagonist is a little suspicious, so he opens the skills details to check, and several pages pop up. The first one talks about passive evolution. This one gives a 100% chance to upgrade a dropped item by 1 rank with a 5% chance to trigger intermediate evolution, which upgrades the item by 2 ranks. The next page talks about autonomous evolution. This one provides a 100% chance to upgrade any item, tool, skill, or gem by 2 levels with a 10% chance to upgrade by 3 levels. The cooldown time for this one is 24 hours. Unfortunately, this effect cannot stack with the passive evolution effect on the same effect can only evolve once as well. At first, our guy is pretty confused while reading all this, but after a few seconds, he realizes how cool it all is and a mischievous grin creeps up his face. With his new talent, he instantly evolved the wrappings around his hand and fist into a really cool gauntlet. And when he sees the insane results, he just considers it excellent that his new ability is absolutely game-changing for him. While others are still dropping bronze and silver items, he'll be dropping at least silver, gold items, or even higher from now on. As far as he's concerned, this 500 million he just spent is totally worth it because with the skills at his disposal now, he can trample everyone beneath his feet. At the moment, his gauntlet is brimming with power and waiting desperately to get some action, so he figures that he'll enter the main game soon and casually kill some monster so that he can test the power of this new skill with dropped items. While he's thinking about this, it suddenly occurs to him once again that this thing has a cooldown time of 24 hours. As such, he figures that the first evolution is crucial, so he needs to find something with potential and try evolving it so he can see what happens. Shen removes the skill equipment at this point and then gets back to preparing for the game. Once preparations are complete, he moves to the next activity on the agenda, which is entering the actual game, so he presses the button on the screen to open the game entrance. The portal starts to form, and so he claims that it's time for him to change his fate. Once the portal is completely open, he marches in there with determined strides. Shen walks into the portal and the scene shifts to a place in the actual game called the Beginner's Village. This is where all the new players first start their journey, so the protagonist is shocked to see a crowd as soon as he gets there. Shen can't believe his eyes, and he's also pretty disappointed because he thought that he'd be among like the first 5 people to buy the game. Seeing that this is the case, our guy simply concludes that there must be many rich folks in this world. While he's still taking it all in, his attention is caught by the players who are desperately chasing chickens to get experience points from them. Others in the game see this and are surprised that killing chickens actually give experience points, so they dive into action once they learn this. Our guy just watches them quietly from the back as they go crazy on the farm animals. Apparently, he knows more than these newbies and figures that it would even be a waste of his time to stay there and mock them. Shen knows that he needs to seize every second for his first goal, so he turns away from the novices who are busy hunting chickens and gets moving. The protagonist feels that he has more important things to be doing right now, and the first one on his list is defeating the newbie's own boss so that he can get the first kill reward before anyone else can. The scene shifts and Shen makes his way deeper into the woods, where he suddenly receives a warning message from the system informing him that he's about to enter the wild monster area. He's told to be careful, but he doesn't have any intention to turn around. He knows that it's dangerous, but he also feels like he needs to quickly kill monsters and level up before any other player realizes what the game is truly about. By getting the first kill on the boss, Shen will be granted extra rewards which cannot be stolen by other players. As such, as he wants to quickly take out monsters and receive rewards, he also knows that preparation is necessary, so he opens his inventory to see what he's got in there that can help him. As soon as he opens it, a look of disdain is plastered on his face because all that he's got in there is a newbie bow and a cloth armor. Shen is really disappointed because neither of the two items has any evolutionary value at all. This baffles him a bit because he knows that it will be impossible to differentiate them from one another. Moreover, the evolution ability can be used actively once a day, so not using it would be a waste, and this makes him wonder if there is anything with more potential to evolve. Shen thinks about this for a few seconds before he suddenly comes up with a brilliant idea. Seeing that there's really no item he can evolve, he decides that it would be better to simply evolve his elf bloodline. The protagonist does just that, and it turns out to be such a wonderful improvement because by the time the evolution is complete, Shen is now left with the bloodline of the Elf King. This boost gives him a few perks. For starters, he's now got strength empowerment, which gives him an additional 50% hit rate, critical strike rate, attack speed, evasion, and a 100% increase in his movement speed. The second enhancement he gets is the life force, which increases his life limit by 1,000 points with an added 100 points with each level up. Finally, the third perk he gets is the life arrow, which simply means that every third attack he strikes is a guaranteed critical hit. Our guy sees his HP go off the roof and is really excited that it can really evolve the bloodline too. Shen finds this really awesome and figures that solo grinding monsters in the new zone shouldn't be a problem at all with these kinds of attributes. His thoughts are suddenly interrupted when he hears a loud howl in the distance. It's so loud that it sends all the birds flying away, and Shen finds this baffling. It turns out to be a level 2 forest wolf with a scar on its face, and the reason it's howling is because it's been cornered by some other players in the game. The big guy in the group steps forward to take on the wolf with his sword, feeling that the creature is not fast enough to escape them. The others in the group advise the forest wolf to give up and die obediently because the only way they can level up is by killing it. As you can imagine, the wolf doesn't have any intention of surrendering to them, so it just keeps growling. By this time, we see that Shen has arrived. Our guy is quietly watching everything from behind a tree where no one can see him. After the exchange he just witnessed, he's really surprised that the players are already starting enough to form teams to kill monsters in the beginner phase. Even though team killing decreases the experience points that can be earned from a hunt, it definitely increases safety and odds of survival. It's a good way to go about the game in his mind, but unfortunately, he feels that their outdoor survival knowledge is lacking. This is because wolves are not solitary animals either. They move in packs, which means that the gamers are about to be ambushed anytime from now. Sure enough, some more forest wolves emerge from the bushes around, and the team of warriors didn't see this coming, so it only takes a few seconds before they're completely surrounded. The ferocious forest wolves then charge at them. As the wolves rough up the entire team, some of the members are forced to deal with the excruciating pain from the attacks. Even though they won't die in the real world, the pain feedback is extremely realistic. They start screaming and begging to be saved from the savage canine beasts, but none of them can be of any use at the moment, so they just conclude that they'll meet at the respawn point. The entire team is wiped out by the pack of vicious wolves, so Shen decides that it's time to step in now. He chants the same parable from before, about the mantis stalking the cicada of the oriole behind. He then shoots a really powerful arrow at the scar-faced forest wolf. The flaming arrow moves out like a missile and hits the gray wolf right in the head. The arrow goes right through the wolf's skull, and a message from the system confirms that he just killed the level 2 wolf. His first mission is pretty much complete at this point, so he gets bumped up to level 2. His Elf King bloodline is upgraded, so he gains an additional 100 life points. Shen also gains 10 magic points and 5 free attribute points. Another window pops up informing him that he also just obtained wolf meat. Thanks to the passive evolution, the advanced wolf meat can give him continuous health regeneration. Seeing this, Shen figures that healing items are also essential for solo grinding in the game, so he picks it up and prepares to leave. Just then, he notices the rest of the wolves charging at him. Seeing this, our boy just relishes the challenge. He's already tested the damage, but now he knows that he needs to try other things. Shen turns around and activates his Elf King bloodline. The passive evolution provides a 100% speed increase, and in that moment, a powerful wave of flames engulfs his body, and this allows him to blast himself away from the pack. With that single blast, the hero is able to reach another part of the forest in the blink of an eye. He finds it amazing that the Elven King bloodline not only increases damage but also provides a 100% speed boost, making him as fast as wild wolves even without additional equipment. For an archer, speed is crucial, so without the divine talent, growing strong would have been so much harder. Our boy takes a look back to taunt the wolves chasing him, but when he glances back, he's shocked to see that the wolves are no longer chasing him. He practically jumped from one cliff to another, so they aren't able to follow him, but he still wonders why they stopped running. The wolves just growl at him from the other side, and he suddenly discovers why they stopped chasing him. A message from the system pops up, informing him that he just entered the buffalo zone, so he realizes that he's now in a higher level area which has even more dangerous creatures. The massive buffaloes with deadly horns are busy grazing the area while the wolves reluctantly retreat. Shen knows that these creatures are more dangerous, so he needs to be cautious. From what he remembers, the buffalo zone has level 5 monsters. While he's still thinking of a way in, another gamer calls out to him. Shen turns around in shock, and that's when he sees the 3 characters traveling together. The pink-haired hare who called him seems to be the leader of the group, so she asks him if he would like to join their team. She informs him that they're preparing to hunt buffalo monsters and asks if he wants to join them, calling Shen handsome for the second time. The young lady is certain that they're the first to reach this area since the server opened, so she's eager to have new members. Just then, the chubby green-haired guy in the team reminds her that they can't just let anyone join them. He can see that Shen is still only at level 2, so he feels that letting the protagonist into their team would only slow them down and mean that they have to share even more of their experience points. Hearing all of this, our boy just gives them a blank expression before declining the offer. He tells them to keep grinding and sets off to go somewhere else. Just then, the blue-haired dude in the trio stops Shen, asking him if he's out of his mind. The guy reveals that the next area is even more dangerous, confirming that none of them has even been there before. Even for them, it's too risky, so they feel that Shen shouldn't be going there by himself, but they have no idea who they're actually dealing with. Our hero doesn't look like he has any intention of listening to them, so they try to make him understand, and the fact guy asks him if he knows the penalty for dying in the game. In response, Shen just tells them that he doesn't know the penalty, claiming that he's a low-level noob who hasn't died yet. As such, he asks the man to teach him, so the blue-haired warrior in the team steps forward to enlighten him. The guy reveals that Shen would lose all his gold and equipment damage if he dies. Even though it's a game, the pain and despair of dying are very real, and the worst part is that all his hard-earned experience points that he's accumulated so far will be cut in half. The blue-haired guy says this with so much seriousness, but Shen doesn't look fazed at all by this little disclosure. He nonchalantly thanks the guy for the heads up and then bids the so-called pros goodbye, which leaves them really baffled. After Shen leaves them, the pink-haired girl suggests that they bring the solo traveler along with them, feeling that it's too dangerous for him to be alone. But the fat guy tells her not to bother herself. As far as he's concerned, Shen is just an idiot who wants to die, so he feels that there's no point trying to stop him. Our boy continues his journey without looking back, and after walking a pretty long distance, he gets to a point where he finds a dried-up human skull on the ground. He picks up the skull and figures that this must be the place they just wanted him about. He's familiar with it already since he's played the game before. Apparently, this really scary cave with spikes shooting down the roof is home to the biggest boss in the newbie zone. Shen tosses the skull in excitement, feeling really good that he's the first one here. Our guy takes a look at the sea of skulls and figures that today is probably the day he'd die here. The skull he just throws lands on something which turns out to be the beast responsible for all the bones in the cave. The creature wakes up feeling irritated, and that's when we see that it's some kind of giant snake. The beast is like the combination of a frilled lizard and a massive serpent, which explains why it's very hostile. Despite how dangerous this monster is, Shen doesn't look even slightly afraid of it. The snake makes itself taller as it slithers higher up the cave to closely observe the intruder. While the serpent is busy trying to look scary, Shen casually activates his skill for detecting the enemy's weakness. He scans the monster at this point and discovers that it's a level 10 giant snake king. He also spots a mark on the back of the snake's neck, so he realizes that this is the weak point he's been looking for. The system confirms this, and so our boy gets ready for battle. Shen was originally at 200 HP since he's level 2 character, but thanks to the Elf King's bloodline, he got an extra 1000 HP, which means that he's got a lot more HP than the Snake King, who currently has only 800 HP. As such, Shen's health bar is now way longer than the boss's, so he's got the advantage here. With this kind of confidence, the hero feels that there's no reason to be scared at all. He takes out his arrow and a really smug grin appears on his face. He draws the arrow and prepares to take the shot, so when the boss snake sees this, it begins to panic. The Snake King sees what's about to happen, so it doesn't waste another second before charging at Shen. The massive beast blasts itself at our boy with the sole intention of killing him, and when Shen sees this, he's just amused by how slow the monster is compared to him. At this rate, Shen feels that the Snake King will have a very hard time landing a hit on him. The hero evades the first strike effortlessly and then lands a shot which hits the snake and takes out 29 HP at once. Shen is pretty disappointed by this because he feels that his attack power is quite low. He expected something higher than this, and since his attack isn't as powerful as he would like, he realizes that the fight might be tougher than he expected. Nevertheless, he's still confident that he'll win, and his speed is still enough to contain the creature, so he figures that this is how he'd handle it. Our hero continues to dodge each strike from the snake, and after a while, he figures that he can just kite the Snake King to death because it's proven to be really slow. He dodges the monster once again and creates some distance between them, which allows him to take another deadly shot. He shoots his arrows and aims for the back of the snake's neck, but that's when he realizes that the creature is cleverly protecting its weakness. This pisses our hero off because he wants to be done with the fight as fast as he can. But then again, he just calms himself down knowing that his Elf King bloodline gives him an attack speed boost. So, he unleashes a barrage of strikes on the monster, and after launching several blasts in the blink of an eye, he's eager to see whose speed prevails between his arrows and the Snake King's tail. To his surprise, the Snake King manages to deflect the first 2 arrows with its tail and doesn't take any damage, but the last one finally hits the weak spot, and this deducts 58 HP from the Snake King. Seeing this, Shen laughs confidently because now he's sure that the beast can't block all his strikes. His arrows are simply just way too fast for the Snake King. The smile on his face suddenly disappears when he sees the beast coming at him for round 3. The snake Jik glares at him with its fiery eyes and then uses a trick that Shen didn't see coming. The giant snake releases a strange mist from its mouth and then blows it toward our hero. It only takes a few seconds for the whole place to be covered in the strange fog, and Shen quickly realizes that it's a poison mist. He covers his nose to avoid breathing it in, but he can only do that for so long. The system suddenly informs him that he's been poisoned and that he'll be losing 10 HP every second. The hero quickly does the man and realizes that he'll need to restart in less than 3 minutes if things continue at this rate. To make matters worse, the Snake King keeps making itself extremely tall by going up and increasing the distance between. This makes it more difficult for Shen to land a critical blow. So, he realizes that the beast is trying to lower his hit rate and wear him down to death. Seeing that this is the case, the hero just smiles mischievously because he's got a plan. He calls out to the giant snake and accuses the monster of underestimating him. He then takes out his diamond-tipped arrow and prepares to launch a deadly shot. The Elf King bloodline is definitely imbued into this arrow, so it's covered in flames as soon as he draws it back. Shen lets the arrow fly and it makes direct contact with the target, taking out over 100 HP in the process. The Snake King screeches in pain and is forced to come down. It turns out that this last attack was the Elf King's blood arrow of life, which basically means that every third attack can be a critical hit no matter the opponent. Now that the giant snake has been brought down, Shen goes over to gloat a little. He figures that the beast is sweating now because it's clear that it can't withstand many of his hits. The snake just stares at him in silence, not sure what to do. The hero reveals that he uses a critical hit on the weak spot and then a normal critical hit on the monsters that double the damage. While he's talking, he remembers that he's also losing 10 HP every second, so he calculates how much time he has left and decides that 2 minutes is enough time to finish the giant Snake King off for good. Shen's health bar keeps getting shorter and shorter, from 1,300 to 1,200, and it just keeps going lower till it's at 999. When it gets to this point, our guy finally starts to feel the effect. It's starting to look like 2 minutes might not be enough time to vanquish the beast, and Shen is beginning to get frustrated. It turns out that the Snake King has been using its tail to attack him in a barrage like a map-wide assault ever since it realized that his critical hits are very strong. Shen hasn't even had any breathing space since then because the snake has been launching deadly attacks non-stop since then. He's forced to keep dodging all the strikes, but he finds it annoying that the Snake King really thinks that it can stop him from attacking back. Right now, Shen is just trying to create space for himself, and if truly the giant snake thinks it can stop him from landing a devastating hit, then he concludes that the monster must be really overestimating its speed. It doesn't take long for him to find the opening he's been looking for, so he creates some distance between them and unleashes another powerful arrowed attack. The critical strike makes direct contact with the monster's belly and deducts a whopping 200 HP from the snake, leaving it with only 370. Seeing this, Shen is glad that the damage is higher now and assumes that it might be due to the softness of the belly. Even though the neck is the weak point, it's still protected by scales, and now that he's got a new target, he concludes that this is how he's going to finish the creature off even faster. The hero gets in place and draws his arrow as he aims his bow at the belly of the beast. But his confidence drops a bit when he sees that the Snake King is laughing. Shen is so confused by this because he doesn't get what's going on, and while he's trying to figure it out, the snake quickly uses its tail to hit the wall of the cave. The impact sends shockwaves all over the cave, and this causes some kind of earthquake inside. The whole place starts shaking all of a sudden, and the earth beneath him starts shifting as well. Shen struggles to keep his balance and attempts to launch another strike, but just then, he finds himself in a pit. The vibrations cause the ground to open up and our boy fell in there. The hero looks up and sees the snake still laughing at him, so he realizes that the monster is trying to create a collapse with the impact. As if being stuck in a hole isn't bad enough, the Snake King starts spewing poison mist again to make life even harder for our hero. As you can imagine, he breathes in this second wave of the death mist, so the poison deepens, causing him to lose 20 HP per second. As a result, he's left with 600 HP currently, and it just keeps dropping. Shen looks around him and realizes that this is pretty much a death sentence for beginners. The snake is creating a deep collapse to trap him, and with the poison getting worse, Shen just feels that the monster is exploiting his lower jump height to make him climb up only to meet more poison mist. Even if his HP is doubled right now, he might not still survive this, but just when it looks like it might be the end for our favorite ranger, he takes out the high-grade wolf meat from his inventory. He expected all of this from the beginner area boss, so he came along with a few tricks of his own. He takes a big bite out of the meat and smiles as he can't wait to see what drops when he finally kills the Snake King. The meat he just ate restores his health by adding 20 HP per second. It lasts for only 20 seconds, but it also increases his speed by 10%. Even though it doesn't cure his poisoning, it does a good job countering the HP reduction effect. So, for the next 20 seconds, he won't lose any more health to the poison, and this time frame is also what will decide his fate in this cave. With his speed increased as well, he blasts himself at the massive serpent, determined to end this fight to an end before the time elapses. He grabs his sword and goes on for the kill after leaping out of the hole. The Snake King just keeps spewing more poison mist into the pit, but then our boy suddenly emerges from the fog and says hello to the beast. As you can imagine, the boss just starts panicking again, but this doesn't stop our boy from landing a deadly shot right in its eye. The Snake King falls to the ground and starts slithering away, but our guy is definitely not going to let it escape, so he takes the finishing shot and lands another blow on its weak spot. The Snake King screeches in anger and then turns around, yelling at our guy to go. Unfortunately, Shen came to kill it, so he just launches yet another deadly arrow, which splits the last one in two and goes right through the beast's neck. This killing blow takes out another 200 HP, which finally offs the Snake King. After killing the legendary beast, the poison status is removed upon victory. As reward for being the first to kill the boss and achieving the server's kill, he earns a place on the glory board. His accomplishments are to be announced, so he's asked if he wants to hide his ID. Shen thinks about it for a second, feeling that he's been hiding for too long, so he decides not to stay anonymous. In response, the system congratulates him once again, confirming that his feats will be announced for all to see. All the other players, and even those who just started the game, suddenly see the message announcing that someone has soloed the boss at only level 3. Back in the Buffalo Zone, we see that the trio finally killed one of the horned beasts, and in their mind, it's definitely a boss because of how difficult it was for them. While they're busy messing around and teasing each other, the announcement pops up in front of them, and they instantly feel like clowns when they see that someone named Ko Ju Wang just killed the Snake King and earned 1,000 reputation points. It's absolutely unbelievable to them, but we catch up with our boy who's reaping his rewards elsewhere. He's been bumped up to level 7 and definitely doesn't regret taking the big risk. It was totally worth it. Shen discovers that he has 30 unassigned attribute points and immediately shoves them into his agility skills. For assassins and rangers, agility practically increases everything else, and coupled with his current HP, he's practically a tank. As far as he's concerned, this is a perfect start to his journey in the divine path. With his attributes assigned, he checks what other foodstuff the Snake King left behind. He's surprised to see yet another passive evolution reward, and this one turns silver coins into gold. He's really impressed to be earning gold coins in his loot as a beginner, because other players can only dream of this at this stage. Most can only boast copper and silver, so he's practically a tycoon in the game already. While he's still celebrating this, he sees the gold glowing all of a sudden, so he wonders if he triggered a second evolution already. As far as he's concerned, this is great, so he can't wait to see what other good stuff he'll get this time around. The story continues with our hero receiving yet another impressive reward. It's called the Crystal Coin, and it's a rare currency that has become extinct. The system reveals that it can be used to purchase special and unknown items from NPCs, and it just so happens that giving the crystal gems to NPCs can significantly increase their favorability. Shen King holds the coin in his hand, seemingly intrigued by it, and is surprised to receive such a rare item. He had heard about it in his previous life, but during all his time in the game, he never actually saw it with his own eyes. The glowing crystal continues to glow in his hands and a smile creeps up on his face immediately because he's sure that it will definitely come in handy one day. He keeps the crystal coin somewhere safe, and just when he's about to exit the cave, the system reminds him to pick up all the other items that were dropped by the Snake King. Hearing this, Shen decides to open the backpack, and that's when all the items are revealed to him. The first thing on the list is a silver snake one-handed sword which has a zigzag blade for some reason. The sword increases attack power by 28, strength by 7 points, and agility by 5 points. The class requirements for its use are either warrior or assassin, and the level requirement is 7. The sword has a special effect called Snake Kiss which consumes 20 energy points when used and then adds snake venom to its attacks. Seeing that it's now a bow and arrows, Shen just clicks his tongue in disappointment. It's pretty much useless to him since he's a ranger, not a warrior or an assassin, but he figures that he could just sell it for money and earn a decent amount. The next item on the list is displayed all of a sudden, and the moment our hero sets his eyes on it, it's almost like love at first sight. Shen takes a look at the aura scale armor and is instantly certain that it's a nice item. This armor increases his defense stats by 25 and his HP by 200 points, along with a 10-point increase in his constitution. The minimum level required is level 10, and there's no class requirement on this one, thankfully. As for the special effect on this armor, well, it has a scale shield, which grants a 300-point shield at the start of battle, and it has a 300 seconds cooldown time. Shen smiles at the screen, recalling that the normal quality Azure scale armor didn't have any special effects in his previous life besides some bonus attributes. However, this silver level 1 is a major upgrade and even has a shield effect, so he's really impressed. But then again, the problem here is that he can't use it until he gets to level 10 in this game. He doesn't even understand the point of that requirement and feels that such a condition is pretty much the same as not getting the reward right after beating the boss by himself. The hero ponders on this for a moment and tries to come up with a way out of this restriction. Just then, he remembers that the reputation system just said that he was sent a silver chest along with his other rewards. Without wasting another second, Shen takes out the silver chest and instructs the system to open it up immediately. As the box slowly opens up, he can already see the blinding light shining from inside, so all he can do is hope that the game doesn't give him trash for other classes again. The silver chest finally blasts open with a lot of force and unleashes several arrows in the form of light. It's a really shocking display, but the system confirms that this is the legendary weapon known as the 7-star chain arrows. The item definitely consumes magic points each time it's used, but it's pretty worth it because it shoots 7 arrows continuously at the target. Each arrow deals true damage equal to 1% of the target's maximum health. The cooldown time for this weapon is 60 seconds, and once again, the minimum level required is level 10. Shen King gets so excited when he sees that this weapon is practically godly and exclusive to archers. It's the perfect one for him since he's a ranger, but then again, his excitement quickly turns to disappointment when he realizes that he can't use it until he reaches level 10. At the moment, it's almost as if he didn't receive any new weapons or skills today, but then looking at it from another angle, he realizes that his damage will increase significantly when he reaches level 10 in the game. Basically, what this tells him is that he needs to level up as quickly as he can. With all of this in mind, a new sense of determination washes over him which will help him focus and grow faster. His thoughts are suddenly interrupted when he hears a noise coming from the darker part of the cave. He turns there, and that's when he clearly hears someone calling for help from within the darkness. As you can imagine, it's really unexpected since he thought he was the only one to ever reach here, so he's pretty reluctant to go check it out. He moves slowly and quietly to see who's there, and that's when he finds a terrified lady sitting there. Her name is Lady Goo, and she asks if he can help her, claiming that she's been hiding there to avoid the giant snake that used to run the cave. As soon as our boy sees the name, he recognizes her as the NPC in this cave. She's been rumored to give players hidden quests, so he's pretty familiar with her. In response, Shen informs her that he's taken care of the giant snake and assured her that she can come out of hiding now. This should be enough reason for her to jump up immediately and get out of the cave, but she can't because apparently her foot is injured. Her cheeks start turning red as she asks him if he can carry her out of the cave, and at this point, it is pretty clear that this Lady Goo is definitely a seductress. Shen's cheeks turn red as well just thinking about carrying the woman, and he definitely didn't expect that request, but we already know that he's going to carry her out of the cave. The scene changes quickly, and it doesn't take long for him to reach the exit of the cave. Our guy walks out of the dark place with Lady Goo in his arms, and she thanks him for the help. Unsurprisingly, that's not the only thing she's doing. Lady Goo suddenly starts caressing Shen's face, claiming that she would have been dead if he didn't show up. The shy hero just tries his best to avoid making eye contact, but then she promises to take good care of him the next time they meet, and this catches his attention. Perplexed, Shen immediately asks her what she means by next time, and before she can even say anything, he drops her on the floor. Lady Goo screams in shock as her back hits the ground, and then she quickly starts explaining herself. She reveals that she doesn't have much to repay him with at the moment besides her body. As far as she's concerned, she can pay the debt she owes him by sleeping with him, so she makes the offer right there. Thankfully, our hero isn't a simp and he's way too focused on his mission in the game, so he quickly stops her and makes it crystal clear to her that he doesn't want to sleep with her. The look in his eyes confirms that Shen King is dead serious about this, but for some reason, Lady Gu just starts laughing. The woman in the robe lets out a gentle laugh and then commends him for seeing right through her trick just now. She finds it's very impressive that he didn't fall for it, so she slowly reveals the real reward she has for him. Lady Gu reaches into her robe and draws out a shiny knife called the Black Moon Blade. It's a bronze level weapon, but it can only be used by assassins. Seeing this, Shen just gets pissed once again, so he slaps the knife out of her hand, which leaves her startled. Our hero has played this game before, so he knows a lot more than she thinks. Shen knows that she's holding back on him, so he gives her one last chance to tell him about the hidden class she knows of. Of course, she's not willing to give it up, so she plays dumb and pretends like she doesn't know what he's talking about. As you can imagine, this pisses Shen off even more, so he decides to pull out the big guns. Since she's not going to hand over the hidden class by her own will, she's given him no other choice but to threaten her. He uses his special skill to see right through her and check what her weakness is. He quickly finds out that it's her daughter. Lady Gu has a 14-year-old daughter not too far away from here, so Shen informs the injured woman that he's off to find the little girl. As you can imagine, this threat is enough to leave Lady Gu terrified. She doesn't understand how this stranger knows so much about her, so she's really afraid. Desperate to protect her daughter from any harm, she finally gives in and agrees to play by his rules. Lady Gu has no other choice, so she claims that she'll help him find the path to the hidden class. Hearing that they're now on the same page, Shen just scolds her for lying at first, wondering why she didn't just say this from the start. They wouldn't have had to argue first. Surprisingly, the same lady who said that she could because of her injured leg suddenly gets on her feet and starts some kind of slow dance ritual. She starts by placing her hands together and lifting them up in the air as she places one foot in front of the other. Her dance continues and Shen just watches her go on speechlessly. Lady Gu spins around like a ballerina and our guy patiently waits to see what she's up to. It doesn't take long for him to see it, because as her little dance ritual goes on, a huge magic circle appears on the ground, which leaves Shen pretty taken aback since he finds himself standing right in the middle of it. While our guy is still trying to figure out what's going on, she casually informs him that this little ritual going on is the hidden class trial. As long as he passes, he will get a hidden class, and after explaining this to him, he thanks her for her disclosure. He admits that this little process is not bad with a cheeky grin on his face, and when Lady Gu notices this, she tells him not to be in such a hurry to thank her. As you can imagine, such a statement catches him off guard, so he turns around to ask her what she means by that. Before he can get serious with the little interrogation, a message from the system pops up to take his attention away. As if he wasn't already shocked enough, what's written on the page is even more horrifying. Our boy looks like he just saw a ghost, so we get to see the piece of information that got him so rattled. It turns out that he's been given the Shadow Hunter trial, which is a very difficult level class, and failure to pass the exam will mean permanent disqualification from the game. Shen is shocked that he's been taken directly to a difficult level all of a sudden, and the worst part is that he's only getting one chance. Seeing the conditions for this trial, Shen quickly calls out to Lady Gu, telling her that he's convinced there's a mistake here. He explains that he's only in level 7 and points out that he should be doing normal or beginner level tasks. As far as he's concerned, this difficult level trial will kill him, so he tries to get out of the magic circle, but that's when he realizes that his leg has been trapped by the seal. At this point, Shen begins to panic because he literally can't move, and it becomes very clear that he's in a lot of danger. When Lady Gu sees him struggling to get out of the trap, she reveals that she did this to him for threatening to lay his hands on her daughter. For that, she's going to make sure that this will be his end. This is about when she sees that Lady Gu now has absolutely zero favorability for him. He's surprised to see that the favoring interface even popped up in the first place, but this makes him realize that the best way to get out of the trap would be to brush up her favorability for him first. While he's still thinking about this, the portal in the magic seal starts opening even wider, and this causes him to get sucked in even faster. Seeing this, it's starting to look like there might really be no way out of this very tight situation. While our guy is struggling and trying not to get sucked in, Lady Gu casually watches from a distance, telling him that whether he passes the trial or not depends on his skills. By the time she says this, the hero has already been sucked in so much that all we can see sticking out of the portal is his head. Even at that, he refuses to give up hope, so he warns Lady Gu not to underestimate him. Shen vows to go after her daughter the second he comes out of the trial, but before he can say anything else, he gets sucked in completely, and Lady Gu just stands there, not knowing if she should be relieved or if she should be even more afraid now. The scene shifts to somewhere else where we see the magic portal floating high up in the night sky. In the blink of an eye, a powerful flash of light shoots out of the magic seal like a bolt of lightning down to the ground. Shen sticks a superhero landing, which sends all the little critters around running to safety. As soon as he makes contact with the ground, he realizes that the entire place is filled with sand. He starts coughing all of a sudden, wondering where the hell he's been brought to. It appears that he's been transported to some kind of desert, and he certainly isn't familiar with the place. While he's trying to figure out where he is, the system drops another message. On the screen, he's informed that his difficult Shadow Hunter trial is about to begin. He's also reminded that failure to pass the trial will result in permanent disqualification from the game. Seeing this message once again makes him realize just how strict the assignment is. From the look of things, it's either he dies or passes the trial. With this in mind, he starts thinking of a plan, and then all of a sudden, something starts coming out of the sand. He finds it suspicious, so he takes a closer look, wondering what the pointy stuff is. At first, it just looks like a tiny sharp object, but then all of a sudden, the rest of the structure shoots out of the sand from beneath him. At this point, it's pretty obvious that the trial has begun. The massive teeth surround Shen, and then the rest of the monster reveals itself. Our hero takes a big leap to avoid getting swallowed whole by the giant worm, and then he figures that this creature must be the trail enemy that he has to face. The gigantic death worm is extremely fast and hungry for blood, so Shen needs to act quickly. Before the beast can launch another attack at him, he quickly activates his weakness detection skill. Our boy powers up the skill, desperately hoping to get answers before the death worm can get to him. As the deadly maggot shoots in and out of the sand to reach him, the results from his little scan get back. Shen discovers that this creature is actually a ground sandworm. It's an elite monster currently at level 5, with an attack power of 45, defense stats at 30, health points at 2000 and a movement speed of 11. However, the most important thing here is its weakness, which is the center of its mouth. Seeing all of this, Shen takes out his bow and draws an arrow. Even though the monster isn't exactly a high-level monster, he can see that it's tough and thick-skinned. He aims right for the deathworm's mouth and then shoots the arrow, confident that this will do the job. The arrowed blast flies with insane speed and lands right in the center of the worm's mouth. This attack does a great deal of damage, deducting 130 health points in one go. Seeing this, Shen becomes a lot more confident that he can win this beast. After being around the deathworm for only a few seconds, our hero has already figured out that the monster becomes quite clumsy whenever it comes out of the sand. Since that's the case, he is certain that he can take out the beast if he's able to hit the mouth with all his arrows. That first strike seems to have really pissed off the monster, so it goes up into the sky, with a deadly aura surrounding it. The sandworm reaches the sky and then shoots right back down like a missile. Our hero sees it coming right back at him and he finds this amusing. Shen King feels that the worm must be an idiot because it still dares to charge at him head on. With a confident grin on the hero's face, he braces himself for the incoming attack. The deathworm crashes a few feet away from Shen and then burrows into the ground with unbelievable speed. The impact is really terrifying, and our guy realizes that he'll definitely be shattered to pieces if he ends up getting hit. The dust clears after a few seconds and Shen sees the huge hole in the ground. He finds it really confusing and he wonders why the monster suddenly dived down into the sand. It's pretty quiet all of a sudden, so he's on high alert. All of a sudden, he notices the sand moving and turns to take a closer look. Just as he's probably thinking, the deathworm is actually the one responsible for this, so he gets pretty worried. Shen King knows that this is a troublesome situation because the monster is too deep underground, and it's too difficult to track its movement from the surface. From the look of things, our guy feels that the monster is way too agile underground, and at this rate, it means that he'll have less than a second to react when the creature finally shoots back up to the surface. Because of this, he's not confident that he'll be able to dodge every attack that gets thrown at him. The deathworm seems to be more efficient in this sandy area since it can burrow in and out with ease, so Shen feels that he needs to find some hard surface to stand on. This way, he can minimize his chances of getting ambushed. With this in mind, he starts looking around frantically, looking for some kind of hard rock or anything like that nearby. His face lights up when he suddenly finds a tall rocky structure in the distance. It's a tall pillar with some strange symbols inscribed on it, but right now, he doesn't really care about any of that. He starts running toward the pillar immediately, and with each determined stride, he gets closer to safety. Unfortunately, he's not the only one moving in that direction, and he quickly finds out when he sees the deathworm coming out of the sand again. He's surprised that the massive monster came out again and wonders if the beast finally wants to engage in a fair fight. As the deathworm towers up to the clouds, our boy takes out his bow again and braces himself for another round. The massive worm is using the same attack it did the first time, so he figures that it's better to strike first this time around. Seeing that the creature is still a bit distracted, he unleashes a few blows on it, and these two arrows deal a whole lot of damage, deducting a total of 390 health points from the monster. This is a really good sign, and our boy is happy to see that he's making some progress. Even though the deathworm is disgusting, he figures that taking it down would be really easy as long as he's able to avoid getting ambushed. Shen King leaps into the air once again and draws his arrow to launch another strike. Unfortunately, this time around, he doesn't get a chance to make the shot because the sandworm retaliates with a powerful blast from its mouth. The creature spits a big chunk of sand at our hero, and Shen quickly covers his face to avoid getting hit. He can see that the beast is trying to catch him off guard while he's in the air, and even though he covers his face, the force from the sand blast is still way too much to contain. He takes some damage and loses 52 HP. To make matters worse, this blast reduces his vision by 50%. At the same time, his attack accuracy also decreased by 30%. Thankfully, these effects only last for 10 seconds. For the next 10 seconds, our boy is forced to fight with blurred vision. He turns around the moment he's hit and curses at the giant maggot. Our hero can't even see his hands properly, so it becomes clear that this blinding effect is a lot stronger than he imagined it would be. Shen is pretty much a sitting duck at this point because he won't be able to protect himself at all if the death worm attacks him now. Sure enough, the massive monster is right behind him already and he can sense it, so he decides that he needs to reach the stone pillar as quickly as possible. The hero gets back on his feet, still unable to open his eyes properly, but he turns around to see the maggot coming at him once again. The death worm burrows into the ground a few feet away from him and the impact sends him flying. Thankfully, the force from the collision sends him in the direction he was hoping for. Shen is slammed into the pillar, and even though he's in a lot of pain, he can't help but smile because he took a gamble that worked out well. He still can't see properly, so he has to rely on his ears for the next couple of seconds. From the sound that he just heard, he wonders if it just dived underground again. He's not sure, so he has to listen carefully, feeling that his current opponent is a real pain in the butt. Not only can it burrow into the ground at will, but it also has the ability to blind its targets. The death worm is a tough nut for sure, but Shen still feels sorry for it because its weakness is too obvious even despite having a really strong attack power. The hero falls back to the ground and places his hands on the floor. From the previous arrows he shot that didn't miss and the 2 attacks that were all sneak attacks from below, Shen is confident that he knows exactly how to take down this creature. The death worm's attacks are monotonous, so he feels that dealing with it will be like playing with a monkey once he's figured out the pattern. Just then, the blinding effect finally expires and our boy can see clearly again. Now that he's got his vision back, he draws his arrow once again, feeling that it's time to counterattack. Standing right in front of the stone pillar, he's confident that he can't be ambushed from behind, so he calls out to the giant insect to come meet its end. Just then, the earth in front of him starts rumbling and he immediately knows that it's the death worm coming from down there. He lets out a cheeky laugh because his plan is coming together, and then sure enough, the big maggot shoots out of the ground right in front of him. At this point, Shen aims his arrow to take a clean shot, confirming that the stupid bug really has a one-track mind. The deathworm unleashes the sand spit move a second time, but our boy is prepared for it now. He quickly evades the blast to avoid being blinded again and then gloats about how he can now change direction mid-air by using the stone pillar as support. This way, he's able to dodge the blast and also unleash his powerful arrow strike from the air with ease. The arrow shoots out and lands right in the mouth of the deathworm once again. This single shot deducts 260 HP in one go. The big slug is pretty shaken up by this one, so it pauses its attacks for a bit and Shen uses this opportunity to get back to the ground. The ranger teases the big maggot at this point, wondering why it's no longer attacking him. In his mind, these are the only 2 skills that the sandworm has, and if that's really the case, then there's no doubt that he'll be leaving here with the creature's severed head. Shen's confidence shoots up at this point, so he charges into the sky with his weapon, hoping to overwhelm the beast and finish it off for good. Shen makes his way right up to the maggot's mouth, and this time around, he's practically hovering a few feet away from its face. The worm attempts to blast him with sand again, but he just dodges it and shoots another deadly arrow into its mouth. This blast takes away 130 health points from the big slug, but Shen King isn't done yet. He follows up with 3 similar blasts which all end up in the maggot's mouth. The 3 blasts take out a total of 520 health points, and that's a great deal from a monster that's already been taking really big hits all this time. At this point, the sandworm is one good strike away from dying, and Shen King knows this all too well. He takes out one more arrow and starts aiming once again so that he can unleash the final strike. This time around, the big maggot is the sitting duck because it just waits there doing nothing, almost as if it knows what's about to happen. Our boy gets his aim right and then unleashes the shot which takes out the last 130 HP left in the monster. Right after this strike, the system sends a message, confirming that the sandworm is dead, and as you'd expect, his rewards start rolling in immediately. First, Shen is bumped up to level 8 in an instant, and then he receives the copper coins which immediately evolve into 10 silver coins. Besides that, he also receives some other items which include bronze quality sand boots which cannot be upgraded. These boots have a special effect which increases the user's movement speed in sandy areas by 10 points. Unfortunately, our hero isn't too impressed with these rewards. In fact, he's convinced that they're trash and wonders why the system would give him stuff like that. Shen looks over at the massive corpse lying in front of him and complains about how this is all the deathworm could give him after being so big. He is so pissed that he feels like stomping on the maggot a few more times. The only reason he isn't is because the experience points he got were pretty decent. All of a sudden, the characters on the stone pillar start glowing, and of course, the hero wonders why this is happening. Now that there's no pressure anymore, he takes a closer look at the inscriptions and notices that there are 8 identical words on the pillar, but only the one at the bottom is glowing. Seeing this, a mischievous look creeps up on his face as he comes up with a theory to explain what's going on with the pillar. Before he can even reveal what he's thinking, several identical sandworms shoot out of the ground. When he sees this, he just sighs in exhaustion because it's just as he thought. Apparently, those symbols on the pillar represent the 8 deadly sandworms he has to face during this trial. This time, it's a lot tougher because he has to fight the remaining 7 at the same time, and since this is the case, he figures that the only way to clear this level is by killing every single one of them. Thankfully, he now knows exactly how to deal with them, so he's not too bothered by them. Shen King quickly makes his way to the top of the pillar and waits for the sandworms to come at him. While he's up there, he gets a good view of the whole desert and admits that this place would have been a really good place for leveling up if it wasn't for the sandworms living there. As much as he likes the place, he knows better than to stay on the ground because every step on the sandy surface could bring 7 big bugs out from all directions. No matter how fast or agile he thinks he is, Shen knows that he definitely cannot handle that many enemies at the same time. So, for now, it's safer to stay right at the top of the pillar where the risk of getting ambushed is a lot lower. From his experience with the first one, he can confidently say that the sandworms have been attacking based on vibrations from the ground. With this in mind, the hero wonders how he can create ground vibrations from a safe distance. As such, he considers shooting an arrow directly at the ground, feeling that the impact might be enough to alert multiple bugs at the same time. Unfortunately, he's not sure this is the best idea because if all the deathworms emerge at the same time, the shockwaves they create might cause the only safe spot to get destroyed as well. As such, the ranger decides that he needs to lure the deathworms out of their hiding places one by one so that he can kill them one after the other. In his mind, this is the best way to handle the situation. So, he smiles confidently, feeling that he's come up with a brilliant idea to pass the trial. Now that Shen has a plan, the next thing he does is open his inventory to get all the stuff he needs for this. For some reason, he needs coins, and since copper coins are too light, he decides that the silver coins in his chest will suffice. Shen takes out 8 silver coins and after feeling them, he concludes that the weight is just right. The hero tosses the coins down to the floor right in front of the stone pillar, feeling confident that his plan is going to work. Sure enough, the coins hit the sand and the vibrations from them trigger the first deathworm to shoot out of the ground. The massive maggot blasts itself from under the sand just like the first one, and Shen prepares to unleash a deadly strike on it. The hero draws another arrow and aims at the beast as it goes up to the sky. The Elf King bloodline appears to be with him on this one, which means that the arrowed attack is going to be really powerful. Right before losing the arrow, he admits that this feels like a really extravagant way to fight. With this thought still in mind, he lets go of the flaming arrow which hits the deathworm in the side. The strike does some damage, but it's not significant because only 35 health points are taken away from the sandworm. Seeing this, the hero analyzes the situation. He feels that the position of the worm is safe, but the problem is the angle, which makes it impossible for him to hit the weak spot from where he is. Shen feels that the slug's defense must be really high since each arrow only does 35 points of damage. For other players in the game, this would probably be a really big problem, but for our guy, it really doesn't matter too much. Another cocky smirk appears on Shen's face, claiming that this won't be a problem for him because he's got enough money to handle the situation. Our guy says this, and then reaches into his inventory again to take out some more silver coins. We see a huge explosion rocking the desert. The blast is so powerful that it sends shockwaves all over the place. The scene shifts at this point, and 4 hours later, we see that Shen King is done dealing with the big slugs. He heaves a sigh of relief as he sits on top of the tall pillar, feeling really good that he's finally done. He's probably very exhausted at this point, but when he looks down at the multiple sandworm corpses lying all in the sand, a sense of accomplishment washes over him. He takes another look and is surprised all of a sudden. Just then, the system gives him another notification, revealing that he's been bumped up from level 8 to level 10. Besides that, he also has 15 attribute points unassigned. He's also earned a total of 80 silver coins from his big victory in the desert. His mana has also increased by 30 points, along with his health points, which have gone up by 330 points. Shen is surprised that he's reached level 10 already. He didn't even realize it, so he concludes that these big bugs give a lot of experience points. The archer is also taken aback by the unassigned attribute points he's been awarded, and this reminds him of something. Shen suddenly opens his status window, which displays his personal details. His health points are now up to 2,190. His mana is at 80, attack at 65, agility is up to 39, spirit still pretty low at 5. Defense at 8, 0 luck still, and 2 points in charm. Seeing all of this, Shen concludes that the chances of getting a good drop has been very low for him. He still hasn't gotten anything mind-blowing in his rewards, so he's starting to think that it might be due to his really low luck stats. The luck is at 0 and he's hoping that this can change, so he assigns the 15 attribute points he just got to his luck. Just like that, he receives a message from the system, confirming that his luck has increased to 15, and this leads to a few other boosts. This results in his hit rate going up to 81 and his evasion stats increased to 16. His face brightens up when he sees this because he realizes that these 2 other stats are related to luck. While he's still celebrating this one, the system drops a message, revealing that another passive evolution is about to begin. This is also due to the increase in his luck, so he can't help getting really excited. It appears that the luck skill is a lot more useful than he imagined. Anyway, he gets right to activating the passive evolution he was just given. He shoots a blast at the giant slug corpses, and as the evolution begins, he thinks about how he didn't have money to spend on upgrades in his previous life. Back then, his damage and health were very low, which made survival very difficult. To survive, he had to put all his scarce attributes into the attack and health, which meant that he missed out on many things like this. The purple beam continues to radiate from the sandworm corpse, and when Shen sees this, he gets even more excited because he knows that purple light represents a legendary item drop. With so much enthusiasm, he jumps down from the pillar and rushes toward the dead maggot, anxious to see what kind of good stuff is up for grabs. When he gets to the corpse, he receives a message from the system, confirming that he just got a legendary sand escape as a reward. This skill allows the user to move freely through sand to conceal themselves just like the deathworms. Movement speed in the sand is 12, and another limitation is that the user can't pass through hard ground. The mana cost for this skill is 0, and the required class is unlimited just like the level. All of this sounds great, but as you can imagine, the skill can only be used in desert terrain unfortunately. Unsurprisingly, Shen King still isn't impressed by this, and he begins to think that the legendary skill must be some kind of joke or something. As far as he's concerned, it's really unimpressive, but then again, he feels that it might be useful for survival or surprise attacks. So, with this in mind, he figures that it won't be such a bad idea to learn the skill, and this sets him back then silver coins. Just like that, our boy learns the same escape skill, so he takes his mind back to the bigger issues at hand. Shen is now on level 10, so this means that he can now use the skill from the previous silver chest he got after killing the Snake King. It's the 7-star arrow skill, and considering how excited he was when he first saw it, he doesn't waste another second before learning the skill. It costs him 20 silver coins, but he definitely doesn't mind. After learning the 7-star arrow skill, he goes on to the next thing on his bucket list, which is the silver level blue armor he also got for defeating the snake boss. The system asks if he'd like to equip it, and he does just that. After equipping the armor, he takes a look at it and is impressed by the significant boost he got. Our hero is looking really sharp all of a sudden, and he can feel it too, claiming that he's probably the highest level player on the server at this point. After going through a really cool upgrade, the hero thinks about what other things he probably needs to handle. Shen looks around and immediately spots the pillar, which is now really bright because all the words inscribed on it are glowing. They've all lit up, which confirms that the monsters are all dead. He's also taken all the rewards by digging through the drops that were left behind. He's practically done everything he needs to do here, so he doesn't get why he's still stuck in the desert. Nothing else is happening, so he begins to freak out, wondering what's going on because the trial should be over by now, or that's what he thought. All of a sudden, the ground starts rumbling and our guy figures that it's an earthquake. But that's not exactly the case. Just then, the tall pillar suddenly starts transforming into something else. The pillar opens up like a gate, leading to somewhere else. The other side of the gate is glowing brightly, and since Shen doesn't know where else to go, he starts walking toward it. Our boy gets to the gate and sees a set of stairs leading down into the place. The energy from inside is so evident, so he feels that the true reward for passing the trial must be in there. It's definitely a long staircase, but the ranger doesn't mind going the distance at this point. He starts smiling, feeling that he's in for a real treat. To him, this is perfect timing to try out new skills and equipment. Just when he's about to start his beautiful journey to the treasure down there, he hears his sister calling out to him. Shen recognizes the voice to be Xiaotong's, but he probably doesn't want to believe it because he's about to discover some really cool rewards. The innocent young girl calls out to him from the real world, telling him that it's time for him to eat. Tong is really excited for some reason, so much so that she climbs on the gaming pod with a pot of food, telling Shen that she made his favorite pickled egg and lean meat porridge. Because of how close the voice is, he figures that she must have climbed on top of the pod, so she tells her to quickly get down, warning that she might get seriously hurt if she falls from that height. While he's trying to get his sister to behave, the system senses that someone is calling him, so it asks if Shen wants to exit the game. At the moment, the hero is way too engrossed, so he quickly tells the system that he wants to keep playing. He already knows that leaving before clearing the level will permanently prevent him from obtaining the hidden class, so he refuses to quit the game. Since he's definitely not leaving yet, he tells Tong to stop messing around, claiming that he doesn't have the time right now. In response, Xiaotong informs him that he's been playing for the past 8 hours, and reminds him that he's still in the recovery stage. She then threatens to get mad at him if he continues acting this way. Unfortunately, the threat doesn't seem to do anything to the big brother because he just yells at her to behave, asking her not to disturb him. As you can imagine, the innocent doting sister doesn't appreciate his tone, so she just huffs in annoyance and decides to react. She forcefully drops the plate of food on the side of his gaming pod and then storms out, claiming that she doesn't care about him anymore. As much as she wants to be mad at him, she can't help but feel sorry for him. Tong wonders how things turned out this way, and she desperately wishes that she could make him get better. The caring girl feels really bad because of how he spoke to her, and Shen can sense this from her tone, so he apologizes to her, feeling quite guilty. But then again, he has a more urgent mission to attend to, so he hopes she can be more patient and wait until her big brother becomes stronger. The hero already knows exactly what the hidden class is. It's the Phantom Hunter, and now he's so close to getting it, so he walks down the long flight of stairs, toward the source of energy brimming below. Our hero gets to the large portal and shoves his hand in first before going in with the rest of his body. He gets to the other side in the blink of an eye and we see that it's another cave. The huge cave gives off a really ominous vibe, and the moment Shen arrives, the system warns him to be very cautious because this area is extremely dangerous. Seeing the message, the ranger figures that this must be where the real boss of the trial is. This is probably why the trial didn't end after he killed the giant sandworms. As soon as this thought crosses his mind, yet another massive creature shoots out of the hard ground. This beast is definitely on another level from the others because it can penetrate hard surfaces too. It's also a lot bigger, so Shen is horrified when he sees that it's a giant crab monster. The hero is so bewildered that he doesn't even believe his eyes for a second. It's literally a crab in the desert, and judging by its size, he's going to have a really hard time trying to defeat it. The system helps him make some sense of it by revealing that this is a gold level boss. It's the Sand King with an attack of 200 points. It's a level 15 monster and has a defense of 80 points. Its health is a whopping 6,000, and it also has the special ability to create sandstorms. As you'd expect, the defense and health of the enemy leave Shen in disbelief because they're absolutely ridiculous. He can't mess around or gamble unnecessarily with a creature like this, so he quickly activates his weakness detection skill to find the monster's weak spot. Unfortunately, for the first time ever, he doesn't find a weakness. Shen King doesn't find a weakness in this powerful opponent, and of course, this makes him really confused. While he's trying to figure out what the hell could be going on, the massive crab monster lifts its huge pincer brimming with energy and then launches a deadly attack. Thankfully, the hero is somehow able to evade this strike, but the force from the attack is so much that it sends him flying like a toy. As he gets tossed across the cave, he thinks about how it's a good thing this monster is so big because it means that it's not going to be fast. Unfortunately, while he's still thinking about this, he gets slammed into a wall in the cave, and the impact is so much that he loses 100 health points in an instant. Shen feels the pain in his spine and his eyes widen in shock because he didn't imagine that this creature's attack shockwave could actually cause this amount of damage. At this point, he becomes a lot more wary of the opponent in front of him and is also really grateful for the 300-point shield provided by the armor he's wearing. If that attack had hit him directly, it would have done a lot more damage, and the pain would have been nothing less than getting hit by a truck. Our guy gets back on his feet, and that's when he sees the gaping hole in the ground left behind by the giant pincer that almost smashed him just now. The hole is so big that Shen can't believe his eyes. At this point, he comes to understand the reason why this monster is a gold level boss. With the way things are looking, the hero will have to do a lot more to win this fight because just dodging the giant crab stomps won't be enough. With this in mind, he takes out his bow and unleashes a powerful blast on the monster. Unfortunately, despite how strong the strike looked, all it does is take a measly 1 health point away from the gold level boss. Shen's blast doesn't even leave a scratch, and this leaves him gobsmacked. His jaw drops when he sees that the best he could do was 1 point of damage, so he tries to figure out what the reason could be. Sure, he knows that the opponent's defense is a lot higher than his attack power, but he didn't imagine that it would directly reduce his damage to just 1 point. The Sand King feels his pathetic attempt at an attack and decides to retaliate, so it tries to smash him with its pincer again, and Shen quickly jumps out of the way. While running to safety, the hero admits that dodging its attacks can't be done by just jumping away. He needs to use his speed advantage to run as far away as he can because he'll just get hit by the shockwaves again if he doesn't. Shen evades the first strike, but then he suddenly realizes that he has been cornered. He looks up at the Sand King coming at him with another deadly attack, so it becomes clear that he can't dodge his own too. The distance is way too short and he won't be able to evade the shockwaves in time, so he just stands there, looking absolutely terrified. A small explosion follows after the impact, and since we didn't see Shen jump out of the way this time, it looks as though he might finally have gotten hit by the Sand King. The giant crab lifts its pincers from the ground, looking really confused because he doesn't find the ranger he was just trying to slam into the rocks. While the Sand King is looking for Shen, we see that the guy is currently holding on for dear life on one of the pincers. Turns out he quickly grabs on to avoid getting squished, and right now, he's so glad that he's not dead. That was definitely a close call, and he finally has a chance to take a breather, or so he thinks. While he's holding on, the Sand King suddenly starts shaking the pincers violently to get Shen off, and this works of course. Our boy finds himself being flung in the air like an ant, and as he reaches the top of the cave, he looks down at the giant crab monster and curses at it. The Sand King sees him falling down and opens his teeth-filled mouth, hoping to swallow the tiny human when he gets back down. As you can imagine, the hero knows that this is what is going to happen, so he comes up with a countermeasure. Shen takes out his bow and aims his flaming arrow at the monster, reminding it that he can actually hurt it. Apparently, our boy isn't using just any regular attack right now, because there's a total of 7 flaming arrows, which means that he's about to unleash his 7-star chain arrow attack. The Elf King appears behind him at this point, confirming that this is going to be one hell of a blast, so he lets the arrows loose and they speed toward the Sand King with incredible speed. The flaming arrows hit the gold level boss, and sure enough they do a great deal of damage, taking away 61 health points 3 different times and then 122 HP twice as well. After this happens, the ranger lands back on the ground with a confident smile on his face. He's happy to see that his blast hurt the gold level boss. Apparently, the 7-star linked arrows each have 1% of the maximum HP as their true damage, which also ignores the armor of the target they're being shot at. That's pretty cool, but Shen feels that the most important thing about this technique is that the higher the health of the target, then the higher the damage dealt when they get hit. This explains why he's already been able to take out almost 1000 HP from the Sand King's total health in only a few blasts. As you can imagine, the gold level boss is furious to have taken such a hit, so he roars at the human warrior and prepares to unleash another deadly attack. Our boy is a lot more confident now that he's done some damage, so he braces himself for what the Sand King is about to throw at him. Unfortunately, the next attack that follows sends Shen flying once again and takes away 100 health points from his total. The gold level boss doesn't stop here though. He just keeps attacking until it's so much that Shen's shield is deactivated. At this point, he's practically a sitting duck because the strikes from the giant crab are going to hurt him a lot more. Another 100 health points are deducted from his total, and this makes our boy realize that he must have really pissed the Sand King off. Shen is equally annoyed by the monster, so he takes a big leap and decides to give the monster another reason to get mad since it clearly hasn't had enough. With his shield now deactivated, the ranger keeps losing HP, but not for long because he gets right on top of the Sand King and prepares to unleash his 7-star linked arrow attack again. Unfortunately, even after he's done shouting it, nothing happens and an awkward silence follows because even the Sand King doesn't know what he's up to at this point. When the 7-star skill doesn't work, a wave of disappointment just washes over Shen's face because realizes that he's already run out of mana. Apparently, the 7-star linked arrow is a strong skill that deals a lot of damage to opponents, but our guy's mana cap is not enough for 2 shots. He's still on top of the crab monster when he realizes this and just gets distracted thinking about his current situation. These 2 points of mana are from auto recovery, and given his current mental strength, he feels that he can recover about 5 points per minute. At this rate, he'll need to wait about 4 minutes before he can use the skill again, and that's a pretty long time when you're up against a terrifying crab monster that wants to tear you to pieces. Seeing that the human wasn't able to launch his attack, the Sand King starts charging up for another strike too. It starts vibrating and going up with a lot of energy, so Shen figures that it might be trying to make him hit the ceiling or something. To avoid this, he swiftly jumps off the Sand King and allows the dumb monster to hit the roof of the cave by itself. Our boy is way too quick for such an attack and feels that the Sand King will have to speed up at least 10-fold if it wants to land a hit. Just then, the ranger receives a shocking message from the system, claiming that the Sand King's weakness has been detected and marked. As you'd expect, Shen is taken aback by this and wonders why there's a weakness all of a sudden. Either way, he quickly takes a look to see what it is, and that's when he sees the marked part of the giant crab's body. Apparently, it's the Sand King's abdomen, and now that our hero can see this, he realizes that the reason it wasn't detected earlier was because that part of the body was hidden underneath. The hero feels that the crab is quite something else because it just revealed its weakness to him by jumping up to the roof of the cave. Just then, the gold level boss starts charging up an energy blast, and the system immediately warns our guy, telling him that he's about to be in danger. It's the Sand King's ultimate attack, and if Shen gets caught in it, then he'll suffer a damage of 100 HP loss per second. His movement will only be restricted and he'll be blind for 60 seconds as well. The message comes as a shock to the hero and he's definitely concerned by it. Unfortunately, he doesn't know how to avoid being hit because as soon as the warning message appears, several sandstorms begin to form inside the cave. These mini tornadoes surround our guy and he begins to panic because he's never seen anything like this. In Shen's mind, this is some rogue skill and he wonders how the hell it works. As if having high damage isn't enough, the ultimate attack skill also lasts long, so it's practically a death sentence for him if he gets him. The ranger contemplates running for a second but quickly warns himself against it. The wind pressure from the sandstorms is way too strong and he can't even move his legs. The small tornadoes begin to overwhelm our hero and he suddenly realizes that there's nowhere to hide because the storm has control effects too. While he's struggling, he's already losing health points, and at this rate, it's only a matter of time before he takes the full hit, which would be a 6000 HP damage. It's clear that this is what the Sand King is going for and the attack is doing a great deal of damage, so the hero just concludes that this gold level boss is a cheater. Seeing that the ultimate attack is making life difficult for the human warrior, the Sand King just intensifies the effects of the storm. Multiple tornadoes surround the guy and he just covers his eyes to avoid getting completely blinded by them. He's overwhelmed by the storms and definitely frustrated by his current situation. From the look of things, getting caught completely in this sandstorm will be fatal for him, or at the very least, it will severely injure him. Determined to save himself, he launches a blast which hits the crab's abdomen, and since it's his third attack, it's automatically a critical hit which deducts 260 health points from the Sand King. Despite landing a blow like that, the gold level boss doesn't flinch and the sandstorms remain completely active. Seeing this, Shen figures that the beast must be really comfortable up there. At this point, the Sand King gets even more annoyed, so it intensifies the effect of the sandstorms, and this leads to Shen being even more overwhelmed by the attack. Our guy keeps losing health points as he's swallowed by the tornadoes. A few minutes later, we see that the Sand King's ultimate attack is over. The sandstorms disappear and the tornadoes disperse, but once the dust settles, Shen is nowhere to be found, and this leaves the giant crab monster very confused. The Sand King has no idea where the human vanished, so it gets worked up. That's about the same time when we see something wriggling under the sand. As you can imagine, it's Shen who is about to execute a really sick surprise attack on the opponent. He launches his arrow at the crab's weak point, knowing that it must be surprised to see him. The blast deducts 130 health points from the Sand King, and this just provokes the gold level boss to activate another sandstorm. Apparently, this beast doesn't need to wait for cooldown time before being able to repeat its most deadly attack. Anyway, Shen sees the tornadoes forming again and he quickly reveals that he's no longer afraid of them. As soon as the mini hurricanes try to overwhelm him again, he just casually flies out of the storm using his sand escape skill he just activated. Our hero blazes out of the storm covered in flames and then blasts himself toward the Sand King. Shen shoots another arrow, feeling that it's a good thing he's smart because it seems that this skill is no joke. Right now, he's seen that the best way to kind the crab is to avoid the ground damage, so he aims for the weak spot and takes 2 shots, which takes out a total of 390 health points from the monster. After this, we see that Shen has successfully reduced the Sand King's total health by almost 2,000 points, and that's really something. The giant crab seems to be getting really tired of being hit in the same place, so becomes even slower than it was before. The Sand King decides to come back down to ground, and when the ranger sees this, he just teased the cave boss, asking why it came down from the ceiling all of a sudden. While he's still mocking the creature, one of the 2 massive pincers is seen going up once again, and then suddenly speeds down toward the human ranger. Just like all the other times before this, Shen sees it coming, so he quickly jumps out of the way to avoid getting plastered on the ground. This time, there's no major shockwave that follows, so he's able to stand at a safe distance, and then calls out to the Sand King. Of course, this pisses off the big crab boss, so it screeches at the hero in annoyance, but Shen just unleashes a barrage of minor attacks on the creature. Sure, they're only removing 1 health point at a time, but he doesn't really mind if they don't do much damage because they're definitely provoking the Sand King. Our guy messes with the big crab monster so much that it's finally forced to talk. The Sand King calls Shen a jerk in annoyance and then roars at him as well, which just leaves the hero shocked that this gigantic crustacean can actually talk. The intense battle rages on for 3 more hours, and by this time, we see that our boy's health bar is now below half at 720 HP out of the original figure of over 2,000. The hero seems to be getting tired of the insanely long fight, but thankfully, his mana points are almost complete again, so this means that it will soon be time to finish off the gold level boss for good. Shen has 50 mana points currently out of the total 80 he can have at a time, and this is definitely enough to do the job. On the other hand, the Sand King has about 1,000 health points left out of the 6,000 he entered the fight with. Shen has certainly done a lot of damage, and now he wants to end things, so he calls out to the massive crab and asks him if he's rested enough. Our boy is ready to launch another deadly attack, so he encourages the monster to strike before he does. Surprisingly, the Sand King just goes quiet for a bit all of a sudden and then surrenders in a flash. The massive crab claims that he gives up, and of course, this leaves Shen really confused. It's the last thing he expected from a boss of this size. Anyway, the Sand King continues to wave his white flag, claiming Shen's gradual scraping is too torturous for a crab, so he asks the human ranger to put him out of his misery. He literally begs Shen to finish him off as tears run down his eye. Hearing this, Shen casually admits that he doesn't want to drag the fight on either. He lets out a small laugh and then informs the Sand King that his defense is just too high to finish him off in 1 normal strike. With that being said, our boy brings out the big guns and activates his 7-star arrows attack. The flaming arrows shoot off the bow like missiles, and they all make impact with the crab's abdomen, which pretty much does the job. A huge blast follows, and then the system releases a message confirming that the Sand King's health points have been exhausted. A congratulatory message follows, revealing that Shen has successfully slain the Sand King. This cross-level challenge he just completed causes his experience points to be multiplied by 1.5. This basically means that he's going up 3 more levels. Seeing this, a genuine smile is plastered on his face, but he also figures that the next level up will be incredibly difficult. That's a problem for the future though. For now, he just wants to bask in the ecstasy of gaining 13 levels in a single day of gaming. It's such a big feat that he's so certain that he's the first person to ever achieve this. While he's still thinking about this, another message pops up, informing him that he's just obtained the qualification to change to a hidden class. It's the hidden class he's been looking for, and it's the whole point of this trial. Now that he's completed it, he's asked if he'd like to change his class to the Phantom Hunter, and of course, he doesn't think twice before changing it. Shen put in so much effort just for this, so he's definitely not going to let it slip away from him. As soon as he accepts the offer, a massive glowing figure appears behind him and flames surround the both of them as the Elf King slowly transforms into something else. The Elf King turns darker all of a sudden and then evolves into the legendary Shadow Hunter. Once this happens, the system sends out yet another message, confirming that Shen has successfully changed his class. This new class comes with a few upgrades which include 200 more health points, 200 more mana points, 20 more points in his attack power, and then 5 more points in all of his attributes. Another message follows, which reveals the Phantom Hunter talent, stating that Shen's attribute points will increase from 5 to 7 for free allocation whenever he levels up. This is really exciting for the hero because as far as he's concerned, this new talent is equivalent to gaining 2 extra attribute points for free with each level up. In his mind, this is just way too powerful, but the funny thing is that there's more. Another talent called Phantom Summoning is granted to him, which works by summoning a phantom to fight for him for 30 seconds. The phantom will inherit 40% of his attack power and all of his attack effects too while casting uses his skills too, but this will cost 50 mana points, which is a lot. Shen also receives another skill called the Death Trap, which is basically invisible to the enemies. The trap will do 100% damage to its victim, but it costs 30 mana points and doesn't work against large enemies either. Our guy goes through all of this, and judging by these 2 exclusive skills, he concludes the skills are growth-based, which means they'll become a lot more powerful later on, even though the Phantom Hunter seems average on the surface right now. The 100 damage boost from the Death Trap combined with the Phantom's output can instantly kill, so he feels that it's truly worthy to be a hidden class. Just then, he notices another screen that's been floating there, and it makes him wonder what kind of effects the Phantom can evolve into. On the screen he sees the active evolution, showing him that the cooldown time is 5 hours left. At this point, Shen decides to go for the passive evolution, and as the process begins, he just feels really excited and concludes that he made the right choice investing in his luck points. The evolution begins and he sucks out all the energy from the Sand King's corpse as it catches on fire inside the cave. As you can imagine, the evolution doesn't disappoint, and once again, he receives some really cool rewards. The 32 silver coins he got are instantly evolved to 32 gold coins and then 2 crystal gems. Currently, Shen has 43 gold, 20 silver and 8 crystal gems. Now, our guy figures that it's time to set a small goal for himself, and for some reason, he believes that earning 1 billion gold is a small goal. The hero is curious to see what other good stuff might have dropped, so he keeps sucking the energy from the Sand King's body, determined to store everything in there. As Shen continues to absorb everything through the passive evolution, more and more cool stuff is given to him. For instance, he receives a silver tier armor-piercing bow, which is perfectly designated to his ranger class. The minimum level is level 10 and the bow has an attack power of 50 with agility stats of 10. As if that's not cool already, each attack reduces the opponent's defense by 5 points. Shen is so excited when he sees that he's finally got a decent bow which is perfect for dealing with high defense monsters. Without even thinking twice, he equips the bow, eager to test it out. The next cool thing he gets is a pair of silver tier steel gauntlets. They don't have any profession requirement and have an attack power of 12, along with agility of 7. They can also help speed up arrow loading. The hero doesn't even hesitate before equipping the cool gauntlets, and then he realizes that there's even more. The next thing Shen unpacks is the silver tier golden great sword, which is unfortunately designated to the warrior profession. It has special effects, good strength, and a bunch of other cool features, but Shen doesn't really care about them anymore since he can't even use it. He's pretty disappointed, and selling it would be a shame, so he figures he'll just hold on to it in the meantime, hoping he can give it to someone later. Turns out that's not even the last gift he's been given by the dead Sand King. Next on the list of cool treasures is the silver tier life amulet. There's no profession required to use it, and it adds the points to his defense. The amulet restores the health points per second when the user is out of combat. This makes him look at this amulet slot and see that 3 out of 4 are empty. Shen decides to allocate all 21 unassigned attribute points he just got to his agility. After doing all of this, he checks his stats and realizes that they've really gone up since the last time. He's currently on level 13 and his current HP stats are just shy of 3000. Attack power at 180, agility is almost 100. Basically, our guy has leveled up almost all areas this time around, so this is a really impressive upgrade. While he's still admiring his stats, the system sends a message, informing him that he'll soon be logged out of the game because he's been playing the game for 15 hours non-stop. He's shocked when he hears this, but not even because he's been in there for too long, but because he doesn't want to leave yet. The hero tries to negotiate with the game system, claiming that he still has things to do, but while he's trying to explain that he can still grind, he just gets logged out forcibly. The next thing we see is that his consciousness is back in the hospital room while seated in his big gaming pod. For a second, he's speechless because of how fast he got kicked out, and this makes him wonder how an adult like him can have an anti-addiction system. In his mind, there's no need for anyone or anything to monitor his activities because he feels that everything is going smoothly. At this rate, he's confident that he'll soon be able to make Xiao Tian and all those who betrayed him pay dearly. The scene shifts after this and we see that the crippled hero made his way to his bed where his sister is sleeping. He goes closer on his wheelchair and is really touched that Xiao Tong ended up coming to his hospital room. Shen picks up the bowl of food she made for him and admits that the look and smell is surprisingly good. He recalls how Xiao Tong was pampered like a princess since birth and how she never had to lift a finger, so he feels that she must have endured a lot now to take care of his body and mood. He watches her as she sleeps peacefully and vows that he'll make sure she lives a good life as soon as his revenge is complete. Our boy holds this thought as he takes a spoon of the porridge she made into his mouth, and as soon as he tastes the food, his nose starts bleeding. The look on his face is enough to confirm that the food tastes horrible. Shen almost dies a second time because of how bad it is. To him, the food tastes like a block of salt boiled in bitter bile. Bro starts saying a whole bunch of profanities we can't even begin to mention, and the noise wakes his sister up. Xiao Tong gets up from the bed and is surprised to see that her big brother finally stopped playing the game. He was so busy cursing that he didn't realize she would hear him, so he quickly apologizes, admitting that he didn't mean to wake her up, and pretends to enjoy the food. Seeing the spoon in his mouth, Xiao Tong figures that he's eaten the porridge she made, so she asks him how it tastes. Of course, the big brother doesn't want to hurt her feelings, so he lies, telling her that it's delicious. Hearing this, the girl just gets really excited and encourages him to hurry up and finish the meal. After all, she believes that he must be starving now since it's been over 15 hours since he ate anything. Our boy suddenly realizes that he may have just sentenced himself to death. He takes another spoon and he can literally see spirit coming out of the food. It's like death calling out to him, but he really doesn't have a choice now because it will hurt his baby sister, so as tears run down his face, he takes the spoon into his mouth and hopes for the best. The scene shifts and the next day, Shen wakes up in his hospital like someone who's about to die. The hero of the story looks like a zombie for some reason, and it's probably because of the food he ate last night. All of a sudden, a lady walks into the room and asks the billionaire how he's feeling this morning. Judging by the skimpy clothing and the white hat, it's pretty obvious that this is the hot nurse who has been assigned to Shen. She's being way too close for comfort, and it's clear that she is trying to flirt with him. She informs him that he really scared her the previous day when he was vomiting. She sits on the bed and shows off her curves, hoping to get his attention. The nurse knows that he's a rich young master and very handsome too. Even though he's crippled, she doesn't seem to mind because she's sure that she can live a life of luxury if she sticks with him now. In response, Shen just rubs his head and tells her that everything is fine. He claims that he was just too tired from playing games the previous day. Hearing this, the nurse doesn't press further and just reminds him to call her if he needs anything. She places her hand on his and then leans over to his ear, telling him that she'll do anything for his health. At this point, Shen can already see right through her. He knows exactly what she's trying to do, so he plays along and tells her to push the wheelchair over to the game pod so he can play. As you can imagine, the nurse is baffled when she hears this because that's the last request she expected a grown man to ask of a stunner like her. The look of shock is plastered on her face for a second, and then it quickly turns to rage because she can't believe that she's really less interesting to him than a game. Unfortunately, it's not like she can do anything, so she just does as she's asked and pushes his wheelchair to the game pod. Once Shen is back inside the pod, she shamefully rolls the chair away and feels that he didn't even look at her because her makeup isn't good enough today. While the gold digger is brooding on the outside, our boy quickly logs back into the game. It only takes a few seconds for Shen to return to Divine Path, and as soon as he opens his eyes, he becomes the Phantom Hunter once again. The hero finds himself in some kind of dystopian neighborhood. The system welcomes him back and then informs him that there are now 300 active players online. Judging by how many people are walking around and going about their business, it's clear that the game is growing rapidly, which would have been really insane if it wasn't for the fact that most of them joined using the cheaper virtual reality devices. This is what Shen thinks is going on at the moment. Now that he's back in Divine Path, the first thing he does is open up his equipment panel to be sure that all his rewards from the trial are still there. With the rate at which the game is growing, Shen feels that the global player base will exceed 100 million in 1 month. As such, this means that he needs to level up really quickly. The equipment panel opens up and the page displayed shows him all the gadgets he's got equipped at the moment. There's nothing on his head and nothing on his thighs. However, he's got the amulet on his neck, his kinglet armor is equipped, his armor-piercing bow, and his sand boots too. Seeing all of this, the hero realizes that he needs to get some top-tier gear as soon as possible. With this in mind, he figures that the best way to do this would be by fighting bosses above level 20. This is Shen's next move, but before heading out into battle, he needs to put a few things in order first. The hero walks into a shop and the owner of the place almost looks surprised to see that a customer just came in. Business must be really slow if that's the case. Anyway, the guy takes a closer look at the ranger and instantly notices that the customer is wearing a silver-grade armor. He's amazed by this and quickly walks out to attend to the visitor. He asks Shen if he can help with anything and our guy just ignores the dwarf at first. Shen looks really disappointed to see that the place is filled with bronze tier junk. He expected something like this, but he hoped it wouldn't be the case. He stares at the shelves and concludes that the better golden tier equipment has already been hidden by the shopkeeper. With this in mind, he figures that he'll need to be very blunt if he wants to get what he's looking for, so he turns to Dwarf and informs the guy that he wants the shop's treasure item. Hearing this, the shopkeeper expresses shock and confusion as if he doesn't have any idea what the ranger is talking about. We can't be sure if he's lying, but I guess we'll soon find out. A very deceitful look appears on the shopkeeper's face all of a sudden. The dwarf claims that the items on the shelves are the only goods in his shop. He quickly offers to give our guy a discount if he can point out anyone that he fancies. As for his shop treasure, he claims that there are no such things here. But then again, he suggests that Shen wouldn't even be able to afford their treasure even if they actually had something like that. Hearing this, the hero can already see where the businessman is going with this, so he immediately takes out a precious stone and offers it to the dwarf, asking if it's enough. Shen tosses the crystal gem at him and the shopkeeper's mind is blown in that instant. He quickly apologizes, claiming that he's the one who failed to recognize the great person who just walked into his shop. His favorability for Shen goes up by a whopping 70 points, so he doesn't even wait another second before blasting open the secret door in his shop. He unlocks the door and reveals another hidden compartment of the store. He leads Shen into the room filled with treasure and admits that these items are only supposed to be sold 30 days after the server opens. However, since he's also fascinated by the ranger and his precious stones, he claims that Shen can pick whatever he wants. Our guy takes a look around and after a while, he just expresses his disappointment again. He checks out most of the items and feels that they're all just silver trash. As you can imagine, the shopkeeper can't even comprehend anyone in the game calling silver equipment trash because this is literally treasure to most people in Divine Path. Just then, our boy spots something that catches his eye. He looks as if he's just seen a ghost, so he calls out to the shopkeeper. The dwarf answers him with a big smile on his face because he can tell that the customer has seen something he likes. Sure enough, Shen immediately points at a mask in a glass box and makes it clear that he wants it. The mask looks really powerful for sure, and the shopkeeper commends our guy for having a good eye. He reveals that this is the only golden mask in the game since the server opened. There's only one in the entire server, and originally, it was supposed to be sold for at least 200,000 gold coins the following month. That's definitely a lot of money, and one would think Shen might not be able to afford it right now judging by how shocked he is. But we know better. The shopkeeper claims that the normal price of the mask is 200,000, but since Shen gave him a crystal gem, he's willing to give him a discount so that he can have it for 150,000 gold instead. The system informs our hero that 200,000 gold coins have been recharged from his available funds and asks him if he'd like to accept the transaction. In response, our boy casually processes the transfer as if he's purchasing some cheap items. The shopkeeper is still talking about how it would take an average player almost a year to gather such an amount when he suddenly receives the payment of 200,000 gold coins. The dwarf can't believe his eyes, especially since the customer didn't even need his discount. Shen confirms that he doesn't need the discount but asks the shopkeeper to notify him the next time he has something nice in his shop. The dazed businessman is still so astounded that he starts stuttering. He immediately makes Shen a VIP customer and assures him that he'll let him know. Our guy leaves the store and puts on the mask as soon as he's outside. 200,000 gold coins are equal to 2 million in cash, so he feels that it's definitely not expensive for a unique headgear. Once the mask is on, he activates it and quickly removes the mask display and visor. He finds this feature quite impressive because he can even choose when he wants to display the mask or not. The hero struts away from the store with the mask on his face, and all those around are absolutely gobsmacked. This new headgear is known as the White Tiger Mask, and it's got some really cool perks. For starters, it's a gold grade equipment which increases his speed by 15 points. The tiger-shaped active skill grants 15 extra points to nearby players. The mask also has a special effect which terrifies monsters and players that are on a lower level than him. Our boy takes a look at all these features and figures that it's just the kind of thing to expect from a gold grade item that's really advanced. While he's walking down the road, all the other players stare at him because they feel that the mask seems extraordinary. One of them points this out and the other informs him that it's a gold grade item. Hearing this, another player claims that it's impossible for someone to already have a gold grade item when the server has only been open for a day. The guy feels that it's a cheat because as far as he knows, there's still no gold equipment listed in the official store. This basically means that you cannot even buy it even if you have the money, so he's more convinced that Shen must be cheating. While some are whispering about this, another player decides to confront the mysterious masked fellow. He taps Shen on the shoulder to get his attention, and our guy doesn't look like he appreciates being disturbed. He asks the stranger what he wants, and the spiky-haired dude responds by complimenting his gear. He then asks if Shen can lend it to him, and his bud is to play with for a while. Hearing this, the hero gets a little pissed, so first, he deactivates the mask, making it disappear, and then asks the bold stranger why the hell he should do that. At this point, it's starting to look like these guys won't back off easily, so Shen turns to face them. The leader of the gang asks the hero how he already has such high-level gear when the server only just opened. He's convinced that the ranger must have used some kind of cheat, so he threatens to get Shen banned from the game if he doesn't hand over the high-level items immediately. Hearing this, our boy just lets out a short laugh. He finds these guys amusing and concludes that they're trying to rob him of his gear. As the confrontation gets more heated, other players around stop and stare. Those who saw Shen earlier realize that he's getting into trouble because the others are accusing him of cheating. They're all really curious, so they rush to go and see what's going on. In a matter of seconds, the place is filled with other nosy players. The second member of the group tells Shen that he's free to think of this as a robbery. Just then, the last member of the trio turns to the nosy players gathered around and suggests that it's time for them to teach the cheating upgrade dog a lesson. Hearing all of this, our guy just stares at the troublemakers with a hired expression on his face. He doesn't take them seriously, but then all of a sudden, he realizes that all the other players around feel the same way. They all start chanting the same thing, determined to teach him a lesson. They're all on the same page now, and Shen is all alone in this one. With everyone now on the troublemaker's side, the spiky-haired gang leader tells Shen once again to hand over all his stuff if he knows what's good for him. He tries to scare the overpowered ranger, claiming that they'll kill him if he refuses and send him back to the respawn spot where they'll just keep taking him down each time he comes out. Hearing these threats, our hero just clicks his tongue in disappointment. He activates his white tiger mask once again and concludes that there will always be fools who believe everything they hear. He's also convinced that there will always be scoundrels who can't stand seeing others do well, and for this reason, he's going to teach the troublemakers a lesson. Using his weakness detection skill, he sees that the big guy is just a level 4 warrior, while the other two in the gang are a level 5 assassin and archer. With his mask fully active, he makes it clear to them that he hates trouble but lets them know that they are free to come at him at the same time. Of course, they're too dumb to see that Shen is a lot stronger than them, so they charge at him together. The archer in the group leaps into the air and aims at Shen, claiming that he'll blow his head off with one move. The big guy is convinced that they can take the ranger out because there are so many openings in his stance, while the assassin just feels that Shen is arrogant. As the three troublemakers come at him, our guy just stands still and waits for them. All of a sudden, he activates his special effect, the tiger shape open, which causes a massive tiger to appear behind him. This giant beast exudes a terrifying aura that overwhelms the three scumbags, and in the blink of an eye, we see that the troublemakers are on the ground. They all look like they've just seen a ghost, and all it took was the hero activating his special effect. Since they are all on lower levels than him, the terrifying skill worked superbly on them. Apparently, it didn't just leave them terrified. The tiger shape open skill is so powerful that it makes the big guy in the gang start spewing out blood from his mouth. This is a really gory sight, as you can imagine, so all the others who were just supporting the troublemakers are now really confused. They were all on the same side a few seconds ago, but now that Shen has dealt with the scumbags, none of them can say what's going on. They wonder what happened, and it appears that they couldn't even see anything that just happened. The overpowered ranger walks up to the spiky-haired troublemaker who's still coughing blood and reminds him what he said earlier about how they'd kill him every time he responds. Shen would like to see them try that after what he's just done to them, so he confidently tells the leader of his gang that his ID is morning wine, evening song. Apparently, this is the English translation of his Chinese name, Kaoju Wanj. Anyway, that being said, he assures the big guy that he's welcome to try and kill him anytime he wishes. The big guy just groans in agony as he remains on the ground. The other nosy players, who clearly have nothing better to do, listen closely to everything that Shen just said. They take note of the name, and some of them immediately recall where they've heard this name before. Some haven't heard the name before, so they ask where exactly this name was seen. And that's when they find out that the name, Kaoju Wang, is boldly written at the top of the leaderboard rankings. On the page, we see that the top 5 players in the game have been arranged. Number 5 in the list is someone named 10-Step Kill, a level 7 ranger. Number 4 on the leaderboard is a player with ID Blood Seal Marquis, and they happen to be a level 8 assassin. Number 3 is named Hellfire Roar, and this is a mage currently on level 8. The player with the number 2 spot goes by the name Heaven's Tyrant Blood, who is also on level 8. However, while everyone else is level 8 or lower, we see that our hero is on level 13, and he's also the only phantom hunter in the game, which is absolutely shocking. Of course, the other players are astounded when they realize that the shadow hunter standing before them is at the top of the leaderboard. Seeing the legendary Kaoju Wanj is such a surreal feeling for most of them, and they can't even hide it. While they're all getting excited and talking about how amazing it is to meet the best player in the game in person, the injured leader of the scumbags calls out to our guy. He's definitely badly injured and lying in a pool of his own blood, but he's still pretty conscious enough to realize that the guy who just roughed him up is the number 1 player on the leaderboard. Shen walks away from there, and as the scene changes, the next thing we see is that he's making his way to a small cabin in the middle of the woods. He surveys the hut a little from behind a tree, revealing that there's one more thing he needs to get done before going back to fighting monsters. He scans the area and then a warm smile creeps up on his face because he suddenly sees what he came looking for. He looks down and spots the little girl playing in the grass with a frog. Now that he's found her, he quickly walks up to her and calls her attention. The girl turns around to see who's talking and at first, Shen gives a friendly smile, asking her if she knows who Madame Gu is. Unfortunately, the blondie doesn't like the fact that he's referring to her as a little girl. As far as she's concerned, Shen isn't even that much older than her, so she snaps at him for assuming she's a kid. From this tone, our guy can definitely sense the attitude, so he confirms that this young lady is definitely the daughter of Lady Gu. With this in mind, he confronts her and bluntly asks her if she's Lady Gu's daughter Linger. The girl is taken aback by the fact that this stranger knows her name, so she gets really uncomfortable and asks him what he wants from her. At this point, Shen discards the friendly demeanor for a second and gives Linger a creepy stare as he tells her that her mother promised him her hand in marriage in 5 years. As you can imagine, this is really shocking news to the young lady, so she expresses her confusion. For some reason, she completely believes what this total stranger just told her and then runs back into the house to confront her mother. As she runs off, she even starts crying, wondering why her mother would marry her off to someone without her knowledge. The mischievous hero just laughs quietly in the background, knowing how devastated the girl must be right now. Lady Gu hears Linger calling for her, so she comes out of the house, wondering what's going on, so she asks her daughter what the matter is. Linger runs into her mother's arms and then asks her if she really married her off. As you'd expect, Lady Gu has no idea what the girl is talking about, so she tries to make some sense of it. But her thoughts are interrupted when Shen casually reveals his presence by greeting her. She almost has a heart attack when she sees him in front of her house. It's like she's looking at a ghost because she can't believe that he was able to pass the extremely difficult trial she forced him into. In response, our guy just wears a smug look on his face, confirming that he passed the test, and then he reminds her that he would come find her daughter as soon as he makes it out. Well, he's here now, proving that he's a man of his word. At this point, Lady Gu realizes that the jig is up, so he goes straight to the point and asks him what he wants. She wants to protect her family at all costs, so she threatens to move out if he tries to do anything improper. Shen is confused when she makes this threat, and it makes him realize that he must be the first person who would scare an NPC into moving out. The hero realizes how serious the situation is, so he tells Lady Gu not to be so nervous and then reveals that all he wants from her is the map for the intermediate dungeon. In response, the stubborn lady looks him dead in the eye and tells him that she doesn't recall having that kind of thing in her possession. Seeing that she wants to play hardball, Shen just sighs and tells her that it's fine. He figures that he probably needs to show her something impressive to make her cooperate. The mother and daughter are terrified when he says this, and as soon as he balls his fists to take a swing, they helplessly accept their fates and wait for what's coming to them. Lady Gu closes her eyes, thinking that Shen wants to hurt them, but after a few seconds, nothing happens, so she opens her eyes, only to see him holding out a crystal gem. The mother and daughter are amazed by this, and they're too stunned to even move or accept it. Shen realizes that Lady Gu is frozen in shock, so he encourages her to take the crystal from him, claiming that it's his way of saying thank you for her letting him take the trial for the hidden class earlier. The hero wants her to have it, so she accepts the gift and instantly starts drooling over the shiny rock with her daughter. This little gesture from Shen causes Madame Gu's and Linger's favorability for him to go up by 50 points in the blink of an eye. They're so touched by it, especially the mother, who can't believe that the crystal gem really belongs to her. It's like a dream, and some start shedding tears of joy as her cheeks turn red. While she's staring at the crystal in disbelief, her daughter swiftly snatches it from her to admire it as well. The little girl is equally very excited and grateful for the gift, so she thanks Shen for it sincerely, calling him a big brother. All of a sudden, Lady Gu scolds Linger for taking the crystal and demands that she return it immediately, claiming that they don't need Shen's stuff. As you can imagine, the young girl has already fallen in love with the shiny rock, so she refuses to give it back. Of course, Lady Gu isn't having any of her disobedience, so she literally chases Linger and tries to drag the crystal away from her. Even at this point, the girl is still determined to keep the stone, so she cleverly reminds Shen about when he said he'd marry her, and asks him if this crystal is a token of their engagement. Surely, our hero didn't mean what he said back then, and the fact that she would even take it seriously to have her way in this situation makes him realize just how mischievous she is. Either way, he wants them to have the crystal, so he just plays along and casually confirms her presumption. However, he reveals that the only way he'll let them keep the so-called token of engagement is if Lady Gu gives him the intermediate map first. Since the little girl wants to be crafty, he figures that it wouldn't hurt to play the same game to get what he wants. After making this request, he quietly waits for Lady Gu's response, and sure enough, the woman is finally ready to talk. According to the rules of the game, the intermediate map can only be handed over to someone 20 days after the server has opened. But since he's already given them a crystal gem, she's more comfortable breaking the rule to tell him the secret. Even though she's still quite reluctant to say it, she reveals that the system gave the village chief permission to hand over the map to anyone of their choice. As soon as she says this, her desperate daughter immediately reveals that she knows where the village chief's house is, leaving Lady Gu stunned. Linger definitely wants to keep this crystal gem, so she tells Shen that she can take him to the home of the village chief. The scene shifts and the next place we're taken to is the village chief's house. Hearing, we see that the chief is chilling under a tree outside the house with no idea that her nap is about to be interrupted. This white-haired lady already knows that lying down for too long isn't good for her, but she really doesn't mind if it means that she can finally relax. Just then, a shadow appears in the sky and she's absolutely taken aback by this. She tries to take a closer look, but before she can even see anything clearly, Linger jumps on her body like a wrestler and informs her that someone is hurt to see her. The impact is so much that the poor village chief spews a little blood from her mouth. As such, she finally confirms that lying down too long really isn't good for her. Anyway, she's curious to find out who's looking for her, so she asks the young blondie. In response, Linger just points to the shadow hunter who's already taken a seat. Shen feels that he's already wasted a lot of time, so he just goes straight to the point and informs the village chief that he needs the intermediate dungeon map to leave the beginner village. Surprisingly, the village chief bluntly turns down his request. She finds it amusing and tells him not to be too rash. He's only at level 13 right now and she feels that he's not ready to leave the beginner village yet, so she tells him to come back when he's at level 20. Hearing this, our guy just scoffs and figures that he'll need to bribe her as well, so he takes out another crystal gem and drops it right next to her. The village chief bursts into laughter when she realizes that he's trying to bribe her, so she decides to enlighten him on why she was chosen as the village chief. The white-haired lady informs him that it's because of her honesty and upright character. That being said, she insists that she's declining his request for his own good, but for some reason, she quickly takes the bribe and keeps it for herself. At this point, Shen is just dumbfounded by her hypocrisy, but he can't give up that easily, so he's not sure what to do. Thankfully, Linger is smart enough to see what's going on, so she playfully reaches for the crystal stone and tells the village chief to give Shen back his gem since she's so honest and upright. Before the white-haired can even realize what's going on, Linger snatches the gem from her and throws it back at the shadow hunter. Of course, the village chief is disappointed that she just lost such a precious stone, but all she can do is whine. Shen catches the gem and realizes that the blonde girl might not be as annoying as he thought. As for the village chief, he tells her to just give him the intermediate map since she claims that she's holding it back for his own good. In response, the lady reveals that she's not sure what method he's using to level up so quickly, and since she can't trust it, she refuses once again because even the bugs in the map are at least level 20, so sending him there now would be a death sentence. The village chief insists that she still can't give him the map even for the sake of player experience. Hearing this, Shen asks if she'll give him the map after he proves his strength, and at this point, she realizes that the shadow hunter really wants this badly. As such, she accepts his proposal and promises to give him the intermediate dungeon map if he's able to complete the task she's about to give him. Of course, our boy is determined to leave the beginner village as soon as possible, so he's more than ready to take on any challenge she puts forward. The village chief takes a small walk to the edge of a cliff nearby and looks out at the rest of the village. She reveals that the village gets attacked by a pack of wolves every year, and even though some brave warriors come forward every now and again to help fight, they can never fully solve the problem. The lady explains that this is because there's a powerful leader behind the wolf pack, the White Wolf King. After revealing all of this, the village chief tasks our hero with taking down the White Wolf King and bringing back its pelt. As soon as she gives him the assignment, a screen pops up in front of the hero, talking of the new mission, the White Wolf King side quest. It's extremely difficult, of course, and the rewards include the intermediate dungeon map, the Wolf Slayer title, White Wolf pants, and 10 silver coins. The shadow hunter accepts the mission instantly with a confident smile on his face. Shen is so sure that he can do the job, so he tells the village chief you get the map ready because he'll be back soon. Before he leaves, Linger holds his hand, asking to come along and claiming that she can protect him. But of course, Shen knows that it's too dangerous, so he tells the young girl to go back home to her mother. The little girl bluntly tells him that she won't go back and reminds him that she also wants to protect her village and help defeat the White Wolf King. At this point, Shen realizes that convincing Linger might be beyond him, so he calls out to the village chief, asking if she can control her villagers or not. The short blondie holds on to him and just keeps insisting that she's going on the mission too. Rather than helping Shen out, the white-haired lady just finds the whole thing amusing. All of a sudden, another message from the system pops up, informing our guy that he has to protect Linger during the mission. Apparently, that's the condition that comes with this quest, so he realizes that he doesn't have a choice. Shen looks at the screen with disappointment laced all over his face as he realizes that the shorty has to tag along. The blondie hops on his back all of a sudden, reminding him that he said he wants to marry her in the future. Shen probably regrets making that joke right now, and he is certainly irritated by the whole arrangement. He snaps at Linger for climbing his back, but nothing he says seems to make her change her mind. In fact, she starts crying on his back, claiming that she won't let him go on an adventure on his own. Our guy is really pissed, but he doesn't have a choice, so despite being frustrated, he gives in and agrees to let her tag along. Of course, this makes the little girl really excited. Later that evening, we see Shen in the middle of the woods reading another message from the system, and of course, Linger is right behind him, tugging on his cape in fear. According to the mission hints, our hero concludes that this is the place, but Linger just hides behind him, claiming that the place is creepy. As if she wasn't already terrified enough, they hear a loud noise come from the bushes all of a sudden, and this keeps our boy on his toes. They're both startled by the noise, but the shadow hunter is definitely not afraid. He slowly walks toward the source of the sound and figures that he can ask for directions if there's anyone there. On the other hand, Linger doesn't think it's a good idea to be going over there. Just then, we see someone beheading a huge wolf in the forest, and as soon as the player kills the beast, Shen and Linger appear. The shadow hunter greets the group of players there and asks them what direction the wolf's lair is. This party of adventurers consists of some really tough warriors, a mage, an archer, and an assassin. None of them is below level 5, and the highest ranked among them is the level 7 assassin. The guy who just killed the wolf is a level 6 warrior, and when Shen asks about the wolf's lair, he informs the shadow hunter that the area has already been taken by his party, which means that nobody else is allowed to grind for levels there. Shen is confused when the guy claims that the area is taken, so he asks what they're talking about. In response, the warrior with the massive sword reveals that they're the biggest guild in the game at the moment. He then reveals the tattoo of a snake on his arm, stating that they're the Green Snake Gang. Hearing all of this, our hero is still pretty lost. He's having a hard time processing all of this because he's not familiar with the group. While he's trying to wrap his head around it, the warrior informs him that the Buffalo area has also been taken by their gang. That being said, he claims that anyone outside their party who wants to grind levels in their territory will have to pay a fee, and makes it clear to Shen that he should just go back to the beginner village and kill chickens if he's not okay with their terms. The talkative warrior suddenly notices the little blondie hiding behind Shen and can immediately tell that she's not a player. So, he figures that she must be an NPC for a mission, but the shadow hunter bluntly reminds him that it's none of his business. Shen uses his cape to hide Linger as he confronts the leader of the Green Snake Gang. He suggests that their grinding method must be extremely inefficient. At this point, another member of the party chimes in, telling Shen that he doesn't know a damn thing. He then reveals that the wolves are safe even though they are low-level beasts in the game. While they're exchanging words, the little girl hiding behind Shen begins to tremble even more because she can sense something coming. All of a sudden, she yells out to inform Shen that there's something else coming out of the bush, and the hero is taken aback for a second. The shadow hunter takes a look and immediately sees the wolf beast emerging from the forest. The aura from the creature is definitely ominous, but the Green Snake Gang members can't sense it for some reason. Well, he's not going to stick around and be the scapegoat, so he carries Linger and takes a big leap west. The troublemakers assume that he just ran away because he's scared, so they start gloating, oblivious to the fact that there's a terrifying wolf spirit behind them. They tell him you get lost and mock him, feeling that he wants to grind when he doesn't want to pay them. If only they knew he was the richest player in the whole game. Shen and Linger stop on top of a tree branch, and the hero begins to wonder if these players are idiots because he doesn't get how they didn't sense any of that killing intent. While they're all still making fun of the shadow hunter, the terrifying wolf monster creeps up behind them, and it's literally just a few feet away from them. They still can't sense the killing intent at this point, and it's only until the drool from the wolf's mouth drops on a player's head that they realize how much danger they're in. The girl feels the drool on her head and turns around, wondering what the hell is going on. The wolf beast roars at her, and before she can even think of her next move, the creature takes a big bite. The wolf monster eats her whole in the blink of an eye, leaving only her feet that were planted to the ground. The remaining members of the Green Snake Gang are absolutely horrified and left speechless when they see what just happened to their colleague. It's a truly gory sight, and none of them can say a word. This creature is definitely beyond anything they're capable of fighting, so the smartest thing to do right now is run for their lives. The talkative warrior from earlier is the first to take to his heels while the others follow. As soon as they start running away, a strange fog escapes from the wolf beast's mouth, and in a flash, the creature disappears by turning into smoke. The Green Snake Gang members can't believe their eyes when they see this, and the fear they were feeling instantly multiplies. While they're looking around, wondering where the ruthless wolf beast vanished to, the creature goes on a rampage, reappearing to sneak up on each of them and then turning back into smoke as soon as it's done devouring the last one. The beast rips the players apart mercilessly, and it's so fast that they can't even contemplate fighting it. The gigantic monster finishes them off in a bloody buffet, and while it's distracted, Shen quietly uses his weakness detection skill to scan the creature. Sure enough, this monstrosity is the White Wolf King he was sent to kill. It's a level 20 beast with its abdomen as the weakness. Even though it has a weakness, its strengths are also worth noting. It has a health of 4,000, speed of 40, and attack power of 300. Its second weakness is the eye area, and it also has some skills that are temporarily unknown for some reason. Shen doesn't trust these stats too well because he's certain that the disappearance just now is not something achievable with just 40 points of speed. He's convinced that the White Wolf King has some deadly skills up its sleeve and decides to test the creature again by launching a few arrows at it. Shen aims his bow, but then he's suddenly stopped when Linger puts her hand in the way. He asks the girl what the hell she's doing and tells her to remove her hand, but she refuses, telling him that he can't shoot it like that. While they're busy arguing, the White Wolf King hears the noise and realizes what's about to happen, so it retreats into the forest. Shen sees it going back to its lair and tries to go after it immediately, but Linger stops him. The girl informs him that the 5 players who were just slaughtered attracted the Wolf King's aggro because they killed too many wolves. That being said, she warns Shen that he is as good as dead if he attracts the Wolf King's aggro now with his current combat power. It would be a suicide mission, so she explains that they need to prepare fully. Hearing all of this, the hero feels that he can go with her plan because the NPC hunt with affection level shouldn't be wrong. He also hopes to raise this favorability. Now that the creature has slipped away, Shen asks the blondie how they're going to find it later. In response, she tells him not to worry and then reveals that she has an auto pathfinding map with her. The Shadow Hunter is surprised when he sees this and wonders why she didn't bring it out earlier. The shorty notices the look on his face and suggests that sticking with her won't be as bad as he thought initially. While she's busy teasing him, a message from the system confirms that an evolution is available. Shen is taken aback for sure, but it's a pleasant surprise because this came just in time. Apparently, he was just thinking of a way to improve his stats so he can face the White Wolf King, and now this. He takes out his gauntlet and Linger is amazed when she sees it, so she asks him what the beautiful display is. In response, he reveals that it's something great and then asks her to watch him show off a bit. Without any hesitation, the Shadow Hunter proceeds to evolve again and calls on his Elf King bloodline. Shen expects an amazing upgrade in the next few seconds, but that's not the case because he's bombarded with an error message instead. Of course, he has no idea what the hell is going on and Linger is equally very confused. The system reveals that Shen already evolved into a new class and informs him that he can't evolve as a ranger anymore. At this point, the hero just gives up, but he admits that it was worth a shot. After all, it isn't illegal to try. He's pretty embarrassed too because he wasn't able to show off. From the look of things, it's clear that he can only evolve the Phantom skill in the meantime. He remembers that he hasn't even used his new skills yet, so he decides to give it a try and activates the Phantom. As soon as he does this, a huge ghost-like version of himself shoots out of the gauntlet. He's amazed by how cool it is and Linger is even more mind-blown. The Phantom takes Shen's form with ease and then strikes a really cool pose which makes the girl even more excited. The blondie immediately concludes that this Phantom is another version of Shen made of water. In response, our guy and his Phantom just laugh at the same time, almost as they're clones. Shen is impressed with what he's seen so far, but he also wants to test the Phantom's ability, so he orders the clone to use the 7-star linked arrow move. Without hesitation, the Phantom takes out its now and draws the arrows to execute the skill. 7 arrows appear on the bow and Shen is certain it works, so he tells the Phantom to stop and not actually shoot. He's not surprised to see this because it's the kind of thing he expects from a hidden class Phantom like this. The fact that his clone can use his skills is really cool to him and he's really happy about it. While he's daydreaming about it, he suddenly gets an idea. Apparently, Shen realizes that his Phantom might be able to do a lot more than just using his skills. Our guy figures that the clone might be able to evolve since he can't at the moment. With this in mind, he commands the clone to activate evolution, and without hesitation, the Phantom lifts its hand up and the gauntlet starts glowing, confirming that the evolution is about to start. The energy from the gauntlet flows all over the place and all of it goes directly toward the hero, who absorbs everything. As this happens, the system drops another message, stating that the Phantom evolution worked, but this means that the clone can't evolve further. Even though that's the case, the first evolution has its perks too, which include an increase in the summoned Phantom count from 1 to 2. The Phantom inherits 40% of Shen's attack power, which is also increased to 60%. The duration for all of this is also increased from 30 seconds to 60 seconds. The Shadow Hunter is so impressed and excited when he realizes that his idea actually worked. It's so incredible because he never imagined that the split Phantom can also use active evolution. While all of this is going on, the little girl with him becomes really curious, so she asks him if he's cheating or something because he's practically doing the impossible at this point. He is shocked that she would even ask him such a thing, so he decides to enlighten her. He tells her not to joke around, informing her that cheating wouldn't even be as powerful as this. After achieving all of this, he turns to Linger and asks her what she thinks his win rate is now. She did say that he doesn't stand a chance against the White Wolf King, so now he wants to know if she still thinks the same thing. Surprisingly, even though she admits that it's impressive, she claims that his chance of winning the beast is still at 20%. Surely, that's not enough for the Shadow Hunter, so he decides to make that number even bigger by using his new skill to evolve the 7-star linked arrows. Shen does this and another message is sent by the system. On the page, he confirms that the skill has been evolved. The skill allows him to shoot 7 consecutive flaming arrows at the target. Each arrow deals true damage equal to 1% of the enemy's maximum health and applies a burn effect. Each arrow lasts 1 second, and so that's a total of 7 seconds, which means that the total damage dealt will be 50 per second. Thanks to this new evolution, the cooldown time is reduced from 1 minute to 40 seconds, and the mana cost is also reduced from 50 seconds to 30 seconds as well. Seeing this new upgrade, Shen King doesn't look too impressed. He imagined that the evolution would turn the 7-star arrows into 8 arrows or something. Even though he's complaining about it, Linger assures him that it's already really powerful, and for this reason, she can confidently tell him that his win rate against the White Wolf King has gone up to 34%. Right after she says this, the system notifies him that the phantom cooldown is complete and he's surprised by how fast it was. Since Linger feels that his odds are getting a lot better, Shen wants to see how much more he can improve. He wants to be prepared when he finally faces the White Wolf King, so he decides that it's time to use the last active evolution available to him. At the moment, he's got 2 phantoms that are identical to him because the first phantom evolved, so he wants to make that 3. Shen tries to activate the last evolution, but an error message is what he gets in response. The system informs him that he's unable to proceed with this because the cooldown time hasn't elapsed. He's shocked and confused, so this makes him wonder if it's possible that the phantom inherits the main body's stats and skill cooldowns instead of the first phantom. It's all getting pretty complicated at this point, so Shen tries to make some sense of what's going on. The main body just used active evolution, so this is probably why the phantom's active evolution is also on cooldown. Our guy figures that this is the reason for the error message, so he decides that next time, he'll use both of the phantom's upgrades before activating the evolution. Now that he knows what to do, he calls Linger and tells her that it's time for them to get moving. As she follows him deeper into the forest, he tells her that they need to come up with another plan to increase their win rate. Linger follows him without hesitation, but also asks him where they're going. In response, Shen just tells her to follow him, and so she does. The scene shifts, and the next thing we see are the creatures underwater. A few smaller fishes are on their own when a big scary predator comes out of nowhere to eat them. Luckily for them, one of Shen's arrows comes to the rescue as it impales the bigger fish and goes right through its skull. Above the water, we see our guy celebrate his perfect shot with a wide grin. Apparently, the bigger fish is some kind of crocodile fish because a message from the system pops up all of a sudden, rewarding Shen with a passive evolution for killing it and acquiring the meat. This advanced crocodile meat restores 200 health points and 20 mana points. It also increases his movement by 30% and then boosts strength and agility by 10% each for 30 seconds. The crocodile fish floats up to the surface of the small lake, and Linger is excited to see that they've got meat now. She was probably starving all this while. Shen can sense this, so he activates his phantoms and they all swing into action. As this happens, he tells the little girl not to worry and assures her that she'll get her fill in a moment. An hour passes and we see the blondie burping loudly with food particles all over her face. She definitely enjoyed the meal, and it's helped to increase the favorability she has for Shen to increase by 30 points. She heaves a satisfied sigh and admits that this is the first time she's eaten such delicious fish meat. Hearing this, Shen isn't even surprised that also he informs her that she just ate his evolved high-grade fish meat. We get to see what's inside our hero's inventory for a second. First on the list is the advanced carp meat, which restores 10 health points per second and 5 mana points per second for 10 seconds. All of this is multiplied by 51 since that's the number of pieces he's got. As for the advanced crocodile meat, Shen has 17 in his inventory. After the meal, the shadow hunter sits by the water with Linger and they have a chat. He admits that the efficiency of 3 phantoms is incredible, and with all these recovery items, he feels that they should have enough to deal with the White Wolf King now. As such, he asks Linger what she thinks the win rate would be now, and the girl does a little calculation before suggesting that his chances of beating the beast are now around 40%. Most people would think this is not good enough yet, but for some reason, Shen seems satisfied with the odds now. He tells Linger to get up, claiming that it's time for them to go take down the Wolf King, and even though she's surprised, she just follows him into the unknown. As the duo continue their journey and their mission, we see that there's someone secretly watching them not too far away. The person isn't alone either, and from the look of things, this is another guild with big dreams in Divine Path. They all look upset for some reason, and I guess it's just a matter of time before we find out what their deal is. The scene changes once again and we arrive at the cave where the White Wolf King resides. Shen stops in front of the lair when Linger informs him that this is the place, so he thanks her for leading the way. The skull lying not too far away from the entrance of the cave is just a reminder of how dangerous the White Wolf King is. As they stand outside the lair, Shen King activates his phantoms and they appear instantly, ready for battle. A death trap is activated and we learn that Shen is using the phantoms now to lure the target. The phantom's duration is 60 seconds and the death trap cooldown is 30 seconds. This means that in 30 seconds, each phantom will be able to set 2 traps per summon. This is practically 4 traps in total. But Shen isn't stopping here. He repeats the process over and over, which just creates a web of death for the White Wolf King to fall into. By the time the hero is done, the whole area in front of the cave is filled with multiple traps just to make sure it's impossible for the target to escape. Seeing all of this, the little blondie feels that the traps might be a bit too many. But then again, even after he's put all of this in place, she realizes that the win rate against the beast still hasn't gone up, and she finds this pretty strange. While Linger is trying to wrap her head around the whole thing, Shen just takes a bite out of the advanced fish meat to replenish his mana with an additional 200 points. He knows that the White Wolf King is insanely fast, so he's out all of these traps here to make sure that the beast has nowhere to run. Hearing him say this, Linger just finds it baffling that he's so confident they can pursue the monster when the win rate hasn't even gotten to 50% yet. His odds are still less than half, but he tells her to leave the rest to him, while pointing at his head. Apparently, he has a plan, so all he needs from her is cooperation. He tells her to go hide behind a tree, stating that he's placed a few traps to protect her. He also tells her not to come out under any circumstance, and she quickly complies. The little blondie rushes to go hide while our hero makes his way to the front of the cave. He calls the White Wolf King, telling it to come meet its end, and of course, the powerful creature accepts his challenge. The White Wolf King emerges from the cave and Shen waits patiently for it to come outside because the moment it does, it'll fall right into his trap. The beast slowly reveals itself as it emerges from the pitch-black cave. The White Wolf King snarls at the Shadow Hunter almost as if it knows there's a trap. All of a sudden, it slowly backs away, baring its teeth the whole time as it retreats into the darkness. Shen is shocked when this happens because that's the last thing he expected. He realizes that this boss is extremely alert, but he can't give up because his plan can only work if the Wolf King comes out. He tries to provoke the beast into charging at him by calling it a coward, but the beast is smarter than that. While Shen is getting frustrated out there, Linger takes a peek, curious to see what the Shadow Hunter is really capable of because this would determine if she actually marries him in the future. Unfortunately, she doesn't sense the stalker behind her, and so she's gagged before she even knows what's happening. The little blondie is terrified when she feels the hand grab her from, and she certainly has no idea who it could be. It turns out that the blue-haired stalker from earlier has finally caught up to her. While the poor girl is being abducted, Shen suddenly receives a message informing him that the trap has been triggered. He's bewildered when he sees the message because as far as he knows, his target is still inside the cave. He wonders who triggered the trap, and because the trap at the entrance wasn't even touched by the White Wolf King. The Shadow Hunter is so confused at this point. He looks around frantically, hoping to find what triggered the trap, and of course, it doesn't take long for him to spot the blue-haired guy who's now holding Linger hostage. He curses at the guy in rage when he sees him, but she's probably not going to be moved by the harsh words. The little blondie struggles to get free, but all her efforts to escape are futile because she's just not strong enough. The leader of the gang is surprised at how wild and restless the kid is, while some of his men who got caught in the traps casually beg to be set free too. Shen is furious when he sees Linger in danger, so he calls out to the troublemaker and demands that she let go of the little girl. The hooded player turns to look at the kid, and Linger simply points out how she's still a minor. The girl calls Shen her husband and threatens to make him whoop their asses if they even try to kidnap her. As you can imagine, the leader of the stalkers is shocked to hear a kid talk about having a husband. He wonders how old the girl even is, while the hero just gets overwhelmed by embarrassment. He desperately hopes that Linger isn't referring to him as the husband, but a part of him knows that he's the one. This is confirmed when the oblivious little girl calls out to him, addressing him as her husband. She calls him to save her from the bad guys, but this just makes him want to disappear and leave her there a little. He's so embarrassed that she would do him like that, and as you'd expect, the troublemakers find it absolutely hilarious. The players in the guild all burst into laughter, mocking Shen because a little girl just called him her husband. They instantly conclude that he must like kids, so they assume that he targets minors more than actual creatures that can help him level up. Hearing all of this mockery, Shen is just so embarrassed that he can't even say a word. Our guy is absolutely speechless, and while the dumber members of the group are busy getting a kick out of the situation, the leader of the gang gets right to the more serious matter at hand. He hands Linger over to his second-in-command and then asks Shen if he knows who this land belongs to. Hearing this, the hero feels that he knows exactly where this is going, so he answers him, stating that it belongs to the Green Snake Gang. His guess is spot on, and the leader of the group confirms this. He's also surprised that Shen still dared to come here to level up when he already knows who the land belongs to. The blue-haired guy starts walking up to him. He doesn't look friendly at all, and it's already obvious that Shen will not be able to walk out of this situation easily since they already have Linger. The hooded guy claims that his brothers were ambushed in this same area during the day and then asks if he has anything to do with it. Technically, our boy didn't have anything to do with them being massacred by the White Wolf King even though he was there, so he makes it clear to the hooded guy that his brothers being attacked isn't connected to him in any way. He even suggests that the guy ask them when they revive if he doesn't believe him. He feels that it's the best way to prove his innocence, and when the blue-haired guy hears this, he realizes that this stranger is right. Besides, he thinks that Shen is a coward, so he doesn't even believe he's capable of taking out 5 of his brothers by himself. Now that he is convinced he's not that much of a threat, he asks our guy what exactly his purpose is for coming to the White Wolf King's lair in their territory. Our boy knows that it's better to keep a low profile and not make himself look like a threat because Linger is still in their hands. With this in mind, he claims that he was just wandering around, but the hooded leader of the group doesn't believe that. The guy thinks that it's bullshit and presumes that there's a hidden boss somewhere in the cave. He admits that he doesn't know where Shen got his information, but he makes it very clear to the Shadow Hunter that all the monsters and rewards in this area belong to the Green Snake Gang. Hearing this, the hero can't help but wonder where all these idiots came from. He finds it amusing that they actually think they stand a chance against the White Wolf King if he tells them about it. He thinks about this for a second and then comes up with a plan to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Since he knows that they don't stand a chance against the boss, he promises to peacefully give them complete ownership if they let the little blondie go. He makes this offer, feeling that he can just let the idiots keep the White Wolf King busy for a bit while he can pick up the rewards after. For now, he needs to prioritize the blondie's safety, because it's also part of his mission. Unfortunately, the arrogant gang leader finds it insulting that Shen thinks he can negotiate. He doesn't rate our hero at all, so he asks the Shadow Hunter if he knows who he's talking to. Hearing this, our boy simply asks the guy what his name is. Someone else answers this and reveals that this blue-haired brat is Yang Cheng's third young master. She reveals that the guy is the heir to the second largest construction consortium in Yangcheng, which is also ranked 27th on the heavenly list. After this really exuberant introduction, Shen isn't even surprised. He had a feeling the guy would be someone from the Yangcheng group. Shen recalls that it was a company in which his own group holds 40% of the shares. Even this brat's father treats Shen King with respect in the real world, so he is not even slightly intimidated. He reveals that he's heard a lot about him. In response, the brat asks Shen to hand over all his money and valuables as punishment for being unruly. Hearing this, our guy is just disappointed. He didn't want to escalate the situation, but this troublemaker is pushing him to the edge. The hooded guy is definitely overstepping his bounds, and so, our guy feels that he might have to teach him a lesson. Just then, the face-off is interrupted by a loud roar from within the cave, and the remaining members of the Green Snake Gang finally believe that there's really a boss in there. At this point, the hooded leader encourages his men to charge with him to go take down the boss. He believes that their guild is an elite one and promises to lead them to the heavenly list. They all charge toward the cave, and the big guy in the group throws Linger back to Shen, claiming to settle their business later. The Shadow Hunter watches the pathetic players run to their room and wonders how they even made it this far in the game. They didn't prepare before charging and certainly haven't surveyed the area, because if they had, they would have known that he's laced the entrance of the cave with traps. He convinces himself that he can't take all the blame if they get trapped, and just as he's thinking this, the Green Snake Gang members find themselves stuck at the entrance. They have no idea how this happened, and the hooded leader is particularly frustrated because he doesn't even know how a trap got there. The story continues with the hooded gang leader standing face to face with the gigantic White Wolf King. The real boss monster has finally come out of hiding now that the traps have been triggered. Technically, it can't get caught in them anymore, so there's nothing to be afraid of. The massive White Wolf King emerges from the dark cave roaring at the trapped members of the Green Snake Gang. The hooded leader of the gang looks up at the beast and can only wonder what the hell this creature is. Just then, another member of the group uses the weakness detection skill to find the White Wolf King's weak spot and then asks the boss what to do next now that they know it's a level 20 creature. Hearing this, the blue-haired gang leader confidently tells the guy that there's nothing to be worried about when he's around. He says this and then snaps the chain holding them bound with ease. The guy feels that there's no reason to panic at all and is certain that they can win since he has the hidden warrior talent in the game, which happens to be a berserker giant. Turns out that Shen isn't the only one with a few tricks up his sleeves. This brat has also spent a lot of money to get a few cheats of his own, so he knows that he can't lose face now. That being said, he activates the skill immediately, and in the blink of an eye, he begins to transform into a jacked beast. His clothes are ripped apart as his muscles grow rapidly, and after a few seconds, his berserker emerges to stand up to the White Wolf King. The boss monster sees the massive blue-haired opponent coming up to face it and braces itself for the fight that's about to go down. The berserker giant is fully formed at this point, and we get to see what this beast is all about. For starters, it has an active skill which temporarily increases its strength by 130%, attack power by 150%, and its defense by 30 points. Unfortunately, all of these boosts come at a cost, which is the fact that the speed is decreased by 100%. But then again, the Berserker Giant has a large execution effect which increases with strength and lasts for 30 seconds. Seeing all of this, our guy is pretty surprised and amazed to learn that there's even a skill like this. He also used his weakness detection skill to check all of this. Just then, Linger calls out to him and asks him if he's really going to give up on the mission now that the troublemakers have gotten involved. In response, he confidently tells her that there's no reason to rush into the fight yet. As far as he's concerned, it's better to wait for the bullets to start flying first. As the Berserker Giant takes the center stage, the other members of the gang start praising the third young master and cheering him on. The leader of the gang puts his consciousness into the creature and starts analyzing the situation. Even though his berserker is big, his talent also gives his strengths a boost, and since he has healers in his team, the only way the White Wolf King can beat him is if it wins in a single blow. With all of this in mind, he charges at the canine boss with his Berserker Giant, but something very unexpected happens. In the blink of an eye, the White Wolf King uses a single strike to stop the giant stone beast. The canine boss impales the Berserker Giant with its hand, leaving the other members of the gang absolutely stunned. The Wolf King used one shot to practically end the fight, and when Shen sees this, he's equally surprised. He recognizes this move as the Steel Peak Claw, and he knows that it instantly deals a damage of 800 HP. It has a speed of 0.7 seconds and clearly ignores the opponent's defense. This is all confirmed when we see the fatally wounded Berserker Giant with only 80 health points left. At this point, all it would take to kill it is one good hit from the Wolf King. The boss monster tosses the stone giant away, and as it crashes into the ground, the horrified members of the Green Snake Gang take to their heels. Their boss is lying on the ground, clearly out of the fight, so they run for their lives. As the cowards scamper away, Shen just clicks his tongue in disappointment. He's very unimpressed by them and concludes that they're just a bunch of useless rabble. Now that the Green Snake King is no longer in the picture, the Shadow Hunter decides that it's time to resume his mission. He starts walking up to the White Wolf King, and when the canine beast sees what's happening, it sends a pack of ferocious wolves to hunt down all the players. The troublemakers see the deadly canine beasts and realize that they're being chased. While most of them are running for their lives, one of the girls in the group tries to stop them. To her, there's nothing to fear about level 2 wolves, so she encourages her colleagues to go back and save her boss. Unfortunately, none of them see things her way. They just call her crazy because they don't think they can fight that many wolves. Besides that, their boss has already been taken out with one shot, so they don't see the point in going back. The girl tries to protest, but then she looks back at the danger charging at her, so she follows the other cowards, who remind her that even bootlicking should be done at the right time. The guy does feel sorry for the boss, but he can't risk getting killed right now. Before leaving, he looks back one more time to apologize, and that's when he sees the Shadow Hunter walking toward the boss monster. He's so convinced that Shen must have a death wish or something, and while he's trying to wrap his head around it all, the hero finally reaches the beast. He stands before the White Wolf King and admits that the boss is smarter than he thought for using his own traps to take revenge on the people that killed its wolves earlier. Unfortunately, that cleverness is about to backfire either way, because now, the Wolf King's next opponent is going to be the highest ranked player in the entire game. Shen makes it very clear, and the look on his face confirms that he's not bluffing. The gang leader who turned into the berserker is still conscious at the moment, and after hearing what Shen just said, he concludes that the Shadow Hunter must be really arrogant because he is literally challenging the towering beast. The brat definitely doesn't want to be a part of that, so he figures that it's best to just keep playing dead. Meanwhile, Shen looks the beast dead in the eye and makes it clear that he's ready for a fight. Annoyed by this, the massive White Wolf King summons a few more wolves and sends them to attack the Shadow Hunter. Of course, the canine beasts charge at our guy, but he's clearly unfazed. As far as he's concerned, they're just wolves, and he feels that they're going to be a walk in the park for him because he's Tiger. As the apex predator in the mix, he casually activates the gold grade mask he got earlier and summons the tiger within. The massive tiger appears, and with one loud roar, all the wolves are sent flying in the opposite direction like toys. The blast of energy throws them back to their master, and the White Wolf King is just baffled when it sees them being tossed around. The boss monster can't believe its eyes, and while it's still in a daze, Shen goes in for a powerful sneak attack. He launches 2 powerful arrows laced with lightning at the Wolf King, but the insanely fast boss monster sees them coming and evades the strike with ease. As you can imagine, Shen is pretty shocked that he couldn't even land a hit. It's now clear that the boss monster's speed is a bit beyond what his accuracy can handle. At this point, the fight is starting to look a lot tougher than he imagined, because he knows that he won't be able to land a hit if he can't control the beast at all. While he's thinking about this, the Wolf King activates its steel peak claws and starts charging at him, so he realizes that he has to defend himself first. So, he runs toward the beast as well, and makes up his mind to go all out against the White Wolf King. Shen and the boss monster throw deadly blows at each other, and the bloody battle begins. As soon as the first exchange takes place, we see Linger looking really terrified. It's almost as if something bad has happened to our hero. She calls out to him desperately, and that's when we see that his shield has completely been destroyed. All 300 points of the shield are exhausted, and 500 health points are deducted from the Shadow Hunter as well. Seeing this, the Wolf King lets out a confident laugh, and Shen just smiles in response. He looks pretty injured with blood all over his face, but for some reason, he's smiling about the situation. Shen finds it amusing that the boss monster thinks he couldn't actually dodge its attack, and then reveals he only let himself get hit for a reason. The Shadow Hunter wears a sinister smile on his face and then reveals that he wouldn't have been able to lock onto the White Wolf King if he had dodged the attack. As soon as he says this, we see that his phantoms have been activated. The ghost clones go up to the sky, and once their aim is right, they launch the 7-star linked arrows attack on the Wolf King at the same time. The 2 phantoms unleash the 7-star flaming arrows on the boss monster, and by the time it looks up to see the fiery strikes coming at it, it's pretty late. Nevertheless, the Wolf King is very confident in its speed, so it quickly shoves our guy away and then starts running to evade the arrows. Surprisingly, the very clever Wolf King is able to get out of the way just in time to avoid getting hit by most of the flaming arrows. However, the beast still took some hits, and the result is pretty significant. At this point, Shen calls out to the boss monster to mock it, asking the creature if it's still enjoying the battle since it was laughing earlier. The Wolf King just growls in rage as its fur continues to burn due to the hit it just suffered. The flaming arrows did some major damage from the look of things, because the boss monster lost over 1,000 health points from just that attack. Now it's left with just under 3,000 health points to fight with, and that's definitely not good for it. Anyway, Shen informs the beast that he has already set traps all around using illusions, which basically means that running away is impossible for this White Wolf King. As he reveals all of this, the monster just growls in annoyance, but Shen doesn't have a shit. Now, all he wasn't to see is who can outlast the other in the slugfest that's about to go down. While saying this, he takes a bite out of the high-grade crocodile meat he got earlier. Of course, consuming this helps him a great deal because it increases his health by 400 points and his magic by 40 more points. Seeing all of this, the enraged White Wolf King just gurgles and then attempts to use one of its special techniques. The boss monster suddenly leaps off the ground and quickly transforms into a huge cloud of smoke. Seeing this, our boy can already tell that the monster is trying to use an invisibility spell against him. He knows how deadly it can be, so he starts panicking and does his best to stay on high alert. At the same time, the Wolf King is determined to land a deadly hit now that it has the advantage, so it circles around him with blistering speed and then sneaks up behind the Shadow Hunter. By the time Shen sees the attack coming, it's already too late. The Wolf King lands a mean blow that sends him flying and deducts 400 health points. Right after being hit, our boy instantly remembers that this was the same technique that the Wolf King used to take down the members of the Green Snake Gang members the first time. Before he can even hit the ground, he glances at the enemy and is shocked to see that it's already disappeared again. He looks the other way as fast as he can because he already knows what's coming, but knowing isn't enough to stop it. In the blink of an eye, the Wolf King reappears right in front of him and unleashes another powerful attack that sends him flying the other direction. The wolf lands multiple hits with the speed of light and each one takes out 200 health points from our hero. By the end of this second attack, our boy is down another 800 health points, and it's no longer looking good for him. The hero crashes into the ground, but quickly gets back up, feeling a bit overwhelmed by the barrage of attacks he is faced with. It's starting to look like the Wolf King doesn't want to give him time to recover at all, and this is pretty evident since the total health points he has left are just shy of 1,700. He coughs violently after being tossed around, and while he's still trying to catch his breath, the ruthless boss monster reappears behind him. The bearded White Wolf King emerges from the smoke and launches itself at our hero. The beast reaches for the Shadow Hunter with its deadly claws from behind, and just when it's about to reach the hero, a chain suddenly stops it. Another chain appears in that moment to grab the other arm, and that's when we see that the boss monster has been caught in one of Shen's traps. The system confirms that a trap has been triggered, and when our boy sees the message, he just laughs. He admits that teleportation skill is impressive but also feels bad for the Wolf King that it's only good at close-range combat. The hero claims that he saw this coming, saying that the boss monster's attack was always going to trigger the trap since he set it right beneath him. While saying this, he takes out another flaming arrow and begins to aim. Now, the beast is trapped. He feels that it's his turn to land a hit too. That being said, he shoots the flaming arrow attack right at the Wolf King's face, and this powerful shot takes out almost 200 health points from the boss monster in a single go. After this, we see that the wolf beast has just under 2,400 health points left. The beast grunts in annoyance with the arrow now stuck in its eye. The creature probably wasn't so mad at Shen before, but after what just happened, it's absolutely livid. The Wolf King breaks free from the traps all of a sudden and then charges at the hero with blistering speed. Shen probably doesn't see this coming because of how crazy the burst of speed is. Before he can do anything, the Wolf King reaches him and buries one of its claws right into his belly. This is definitely a fatal blow because Shen loses 800 more health points from it. At this point, he's down to just over half of his total health points with 1,670 points. Seeing this much damage, the Wolf King's confidence shoots up again. The bearded beast wears a twisted grin as it waits for the Shadow Hunter's next move. Meanwhile, our boy is also smiling for some reason. He's bleeding seriously and it's even flowing out of his mouth, but he's still very unfazed. He knew that the traps wouldn't hold the boss monster for long, and it turns out that he actually let himself get stabbed this last time. He didn't dodge the attack just so that he could keep the Wolf King in place. Our guy claims that 3 seconds was all he needed to finish the job, and while he's saying all this, the plan is already in motion. His 2 phantoms appear once again, confirming that he's about to do some more damage. When the Wolf King realizes this, it lets go of the Shadow Hunter and braces itself for what's about to happen. All of a sudden, the system confirms that Shen's trap has been set, and right after that, it's triggered as well. As soon as this happens, the Wolf King gets caught in the chains a second time. Unfortunately, this time, the traps are a lot stronger and there's 2 mean phantoms waiting to shoot it with the 7-star linked arrow attack again. To finish the job, Shen joins the 2 phantoms to unleash this killer strike, tripling the damage on the already immobilized Wolf King. That being said, the boss monster is forced to receive 21 consecutive shots of flaming arrows that already have some really potent effects. While this is going on, we see 2 other players in the distance. They're clearly noobs, and one of them asks where the wolves gather so they can go hunting. The other points right in the direction of the wolves' lair, and as if on cue, an absolutely massive explosion follows. The 2 gamers see the huge mushroom-shaped cloud and it makes them wonder if the game has nukes or something. The other just feels that this must be a hack, but they don't really know any more than that, so they're all pretty dumbfounded. While those guys are being stunned by the whole thing, we catch up with Shen and his mission buddy. Linger's mind is definitely blown by what she just saw, and the scenes in front of her are just so incredible. Clearly, Shen's triple threat blast did the job because the White Wolf King is now as good as dead with only 75 health points left out of the original 4,000. Seeing the half-dead beast lying on the ground, Shen just thinks back to how 9 arrows missed the first time. If that hadn't happened, then a full combo would have taken the boss monster out with like 3,000 damage. While saying this, he casually munches on his high-grade crocodile meat. He's won the fight this time, but he knows where he needs to improve. For starters, he needs to practice controlling his illusions more precisely. At the moment, our boy is still healing from the damage he took thanks to the crocodile meat he just ate, but the blondie next to him just urges him to finish off the White Wolf King now so that he can complete the mission. In response, he just tells her not to rush and informs her that there's still something left to do first. However, the little girl doesn't seem to know what he's talking about, so she expresses her confusion. While she's still wondering what Shen might be referring to, we see that the blue-haired brat from earlier is back to his normal self. He's still playing dead like the coward he is and starts wondering why he's no longer hearing any noise around. After that loud bang, there hasn't been any other noise, so he wonders who among two went down. Uncertain of the situation and too scared to blow his cover, he decides to play dead a while longer and see what happens. The guy quickly realizes that playing dead might not actually be the safest bet when an arrow comes flying toward him. The arrow lands mere inches away from his head and this leaves him horrified. It also blows his cover because he's forced to open his eyes and get up. That's when he sees the shadow hunter in front of him. He's pretty shocked to see Sane is still alive, so he asks the hero if he actually killed the Wolf King. In response, he reveals that he pretty much did, since the boss monster is barely holding on for life right now. At this point, he realizes that Shen is definitely not on the same level as him, so he proceeds to bootlicking. The brat literally starts worshipping the shadow hunter and begs to be spared, admitting that he was blind before. Of course, Shen isn't really concerned with all of this, but he figures that he can get something out of it, so he comes up with a quick plan. With this in mind, he informs the brat that he could spare his life and even let him gain some experience from the White Wolf King. The guy is shocked when he hears that he would actually be this lucky, and so Shen decides to reveal that there's a condition. He sternly tells the third young master that he will have to do something for him first, and judging by the look on the hero's face, it's not going to be easy. However, he doesn't feel that he should just tell the brat what it is yet. He feels that he'll just find a way to inform the guy when the time comes for it. That being said, he grabs his bow and aims an arrow right at the troublemaker's face. With the tip of the arrow just inches away from the brat's face, Shen asks the guy if he's accepted the terms or not. Of course, the brat doesn't want a hole in his forehead, so he's absolutely terrified. Our boy has lived past this point before, so he already knows that Xiao Tiankai will soon conspire with other workers in the company to strip him or his position in the real world. Even though the guy's family's influence isn't big, they're easy to win over, and this buys the hero some time. The ability to bring game attributes into the real world will be a reality in about 6 months, so Shen knows that he needs to level up steadily within that time to create a huge gap between himself and all the other players. The arrogant brat is pretty scared of being killed, but he also feels that the shadow hunter would just kill him either way, even if he agrees to the condition. Our guy isn't surprised to see this, since he already knows what the guy is, a businessman at heart. He figures that the deal can never be genuine if the guy doesn't negotiate at least one condition. Besides, our hero doesn't feel he can rely on someone who isn't greedy in one way or the other. In response, the brat just laughs, admitting that he won't bother hiding anything from him since Shen already knows him so well. That being said, he proposes his own deal, claiming that he'll agree to anything he can do within his ability only if Shen can help him level up to secure his place as the leader of the Green Snake Gang. Hearing this, a small smile creeps up on the shadow hunter's face, and he just breathes in response to the brat's condition. Right after that, he unleashes his 7-star attack, and at first, the third young master is afraid that he might be the target, but we all quickly realize that our boy is aiming for the White Wolf King to finish it off for good. As the massive explosion erupts behind them, Shen just smiles and confirms that they've got themselves a deal. At this point, the blue-haired troublemaker is just relieved that everything went on without him getting killed, so he just gulps. Just then, a message from the system pops up, confirming that our boy leveled up by defeating this stronger opponent. As a result, he's bumped up from level 13 to level 15. He's also rewarded with 14 unassigned attribute points along with the title of Wolf Slayer. Apparently, all the villagers will know what he's just done, and they will all be grateful to him. The third young master also receives a message from the system, confirming that he's jumped from level 8 to level 10 in one go, and he's really excited about it. He's probably never experienced a jump like this, so he's incredibly overwhelmed and just starts thanking Shen. He even promises to repay the favor, but our boy isn't really concerned about him. The shadow hunter focuses on collecting all the loot, and after that, he tells the guy to stop calling him Big Brother, making it clear that he's not taking any little brothers. The hero is dead serious about this, and he's also very serious when he promises to make the brat wish he were dead if he does anything disgraceful with his name. In response, the excited guy is just way too grateful to even be scared. He swears that he would never dare do such a thing right before vowing to always be loyal to Shen even till death. The guy calls him Big Brother again, but he just ignores it this time and calls out to the other little brat in the vicinity. He tells Linger to come over, informing her that it's time to go, so without any hesitation, she walks up to him. At this point, it's time to say goodbye to the leader of the Green Snake Gang, so he assures the guy that he'll let him know how he can help when the time is right. The brat claims that he understands, so Shen decides that it's time to head back with the little blonde girl in his care. When the duo walk away, the guy just looks on, feeling that Big Brother's kindness will surely be repaid one day. During the journey back home, Shen seems to be getting really pissed by the talkative blondie with him. Linger commends him for being amazing during the fight, and now that she's seen how strong and skilled he is, she's made up her mind to marry him. Right now, our boy definitely regrets ever making that joke. He's had enough of the weird talk, so he snaps at her, reminding her that it was a joke. He also goes on to remind her that she's an NPC file of data, and a kid most importantly. Shen informs her that people will think he's into minors if she keeps calling him husband, and his response just pisses her off. It strikes a nerve in her head, so she angrily attacks the hero, especially for calling her a kid. Linger literally bites his neck like a Doberman and starts going crazy all of a sudden. Our boy pulls her off, wondering who on earth designed her character to be like that, while she just keeps insisting that she's a young woman, not a kid. He quickly gets fed up with her noise, so he finally agrees that she's a young woman so that she can stop making noise and just let him check his loot in peace. At this point, they're both pretty mad at each other, but Shen has other things to do right now, so he ignores her. Among the items in the loot, the first thing on the list is the silver grade white wolf pants. There's no class requirement to use it, and the minimum level required is level 15, which means Shen is eligible to use it. The item increases evasion stats by 17 and agility by 20. It's pretty passive while the user is at full health, and the best part is that movement speed increases by 100%. Our boy quickly equips the pants and he's immediately impressed by it. He can instantly tell that his movement speed has been doubled, so this is basically like him flying. Besides the pants, there's more stuff in the loot, like the steel wolf claws, which are silver grade. The class required here is the assassin class. Level 15 is the minimum level required, and the claws inflict a critical 200% increase in the damage. Other skills of these claws include fast strike, which works by instantly teleporting behind an enemy to launch a surprise attack. Unfortunately, our boy feels that it's just a piece of trash, which leaves her feeling pretty taken aback. Anyway, Shen goes over to the next item, and it's a white wolf fur, which is a rare item. Seeing this, the shadow hunter quickly concludes that the must be valuable because it's used to complete a mission. Just then, another reward is added, and this one is more like a skill than an item. Shen's gauntlet starts releasing energy at this point, and he quickly finds out that this is the legendary summoning skill called Wolf Minions. There's no class requirement for this one, and the minimum level requirement is 10. The skill works by summoning 2 phantom wolf minions that can detect hidden units and even attack them. It has an attack power of 30, health of 200, mana cost of 30, and cooldown of 80 seconds. When the hero learns of all this, he gets so excited because he can finally play a summoning built now. So, without any hesitation at all, he spends 20 silver coins immediately just so that he can learn the skill. After that, he checks the rest of the loot and confirms that all left are consumables, which include 3 crystal coins, 43 gold coins, 17 silver coins. Elsewhere, we see that Madame Gu is worried sick back in the village. She's almost crying as she wonders why Shen isn't back with her daughter yet. She gets so frustrated that she starts blaming the village chief for allowing Linger to go on the mission with the shadow hunter. As far as she's concerned, our boy is doomed for sure, because to her, his level is probably not high enough to be fighting against the White Wolf King. While the worried mother is rambling on, the village chief just turns her gaze and realizes that the hero in question is back already. She informs Lady Gu, who is taken aback when she sees her daughter strolling up to her with the shadow hunter. The short blondie rushes into her mother's arms without wasting another second, and the relieved woman reveals how glad she is that her baby is safe. In response, the girl admits that Shen was the one who protected her. While the mother and daughter are busy reuniting, the hero just walks up to the village chief and gives her the wolf pelt she asked for. Seeing it, she's surprised and admits that she didn't expect him to actually do it. So, she now realizes that he's not an ordinary person as she thought initially. Now that he's proven himself and met his own side of the deal, she stops messing around and takes out the map he's been asking for. She reveals that this meeting place is for levels 20 to 40 and tells him that he'll need to follow the rules if he wants to go there. She claims that it'll be F-rated after a month, but also agrees to leave it to him and let him suffer if he insists. Since it's still a hidden map, it's going to be harder than normal, but the rewards are also better than usual, so she encourages him to be careful while exploring. The village chief throws the intermediate map to him, and the system confirms that his mission is complete as he catches it with ease. Shen has taken note of everything she told him and assures her that there's nothing to worry about. Just then, the little blondie asks him if he's going to leave now. He turns to her and asks her if she wants to come with him. There's a warm smile on his face, and that's all it would take for the girl to say yes, but before she can even answer, Lady Gu drags her away and calls him a scoundrel. She furiously warns him to stop flirting with her daughter, and this just leaves Linger pretty frustrated. Despite her mother being completely against it, she insists on following Shen on his next mission. The poor Lady Gu doesn't want to lose her daughter again, so she tries to change Linger's mind while yelling at the shadow hunter to leave already since he has the map. Unfortunately, our boy isn't exactly ready to leave yet. He appears to have some unfinished business with the village chief. As far as he's concerned, the wolf pelt is an extremely rare item, so he's not satisfied with getting only one map from the village chief in exchange for it. To him, that just seems pretty stingy, but the white-haired lady concludes that he's just trying to take advantage of her now. In response, he tells her that there's no need to put it like that and informs her that he's only looking for fair compensation. He's getting to know how stingy these NPCs can be, and from the look of things, he might just have to push extra hard again before she finally hands over the good stuff. With this in mind, he chooses to do a little intimidation. And what better way to do this than to unleash his flaming arrow skill? I can imagine, the village chief is overwhelmed by it. He asks her if this is really how she wants to reward the wolf-killing hero that just saved her and her village. It only takes a few seconds for her to be pressured into surrendering some more stuff for him to take and just leave already. Shen is pleased with the cooperation, and the system quickly reveals the new goodies he just acquired. First thing in the list is the epic skill Power Strike. It takes 7 seconds of charging to reach the maximum damage. The range doubles. Attack area is increased by 50%, along with a piercing effect that deals 500% of agility as damage. Seeing all of this, our guy is quite impressed by the kind hidden treasure the village chief has got in her pockets. The scene changes, and the next thing we see is a huge flaming arrow parting the river. Obviously, this is Shen's doing, and we quickly find out that he's only testing out the power strike he just learned for 20 silver coins. The hero is very amazed and surprised that the arrow could also shoot through that small hill from this far. In response, the village chief just brags about how it's the kind of thing expected of an epic skill. Hearing this, he turns to her and concludes that she's a socialist boss and not completely capitalistic because she still has some heart for those who put in effort. That being said, it's time for him to leave, so he turns to bid the little blondie goodbye, claiming that they'll see next time. The girl is shocked to see that he's leaving without her, but Shen knows that he can't take her along, so he just tells her that she should remember to grow up while he's gone. Of course, it's too difficult for her to say goodbye, so all she can do is scream sadly while he continues his journey. He blasts across the water and leaves her behind, so the pained girl calls him a heartless jerk even though she doesn't mean it. The scene changes, and the next place our hero arrives is a suburb by the water. He looks at his map to confirm that he's in the right place, and that's when we're introduced to the beautiful Roy City for the first time. Our boy is really glad to see that he's finally made it to this city because he knows that there's plenty of good stuff there. In his previous life, he missed out on all the hidden bosses and special class specific quests in the beginner village, all because he didn't have any money when he started the game. Shen spent 2 months farming cows before finally rushing to Roy City, but by then, all the good items were already gone. Fortunately, he didn't let that experience be in vain because he managed to figure out the locations of all the chests, bosses, and useful NPCs in the city back then. As far as the hero is concerned, the most important thing about Roy City is the fact that one can take back attributes to the real world after reaching level 40 and completing a special mission. Right now, the hero already has a plan somewhere in his mind to achieve all of this very quickly, so he just hopes that Xiao Tankai can wait so that he can make sure the guy goes through twice the pain he went through in his first life. Before heading to Roy City, the hero figures that he should first of all clear his inventory. He feels that it's best to turn all the items he doesn't need to money. The scene changes once again, and we see that our boy's latest stop is an auction house. The female workers there parade themselves in very revealing outfits as they attend to all the guests and welcome all those coming in. Just as Shen walks into the place, an announcement is made, saying that the next auction item is about to be revealed. Our boy is a little overwhelmed by how many people are present at the auction, but he also feels that it's a good thing because the more people there are, the faster stuff sells. After all, he needs to offload before the NPC's store opens because he won't be able to get a high price otherwise. At the entrance, one of the ushers approaches him, asking if he came to bid or to auction something. He reveals that he came to auction, so the lady politely tells him to go deposit the auction items at the registration desk. Then, she tells him to take a number and wait for the items to be auctioned in order. She explains that a 10% handling fee applies to each successful sale and then asks him if he'd like to hide his identity. The Shadow Hunter thinks about this for a second and admits that he doesn't usually mind if people bother him. But if he doesn't hide his identity now, then he'll just get swarmed by requests to join parties. So, he figures that it's better to just stay hidden for now. Just then, the guy on the stage calls out to get everyone's attention and welcomes number 183 to showcase her auction items. The lady gets on the stage and all the men in the crowd begin to lose composure. Their cheeks turn red as they get all flustered, and that's when the hot lady in a robe greets all of them. One spiky-haired blondie is already drooling at the front as he talks about how big the crowd is. Shen, on the other hand, just has a stern look on his face as he observes everything that's going on. The duo on the stage reveal the next item, which happens to be a bronze-level artifact called the Ring of Greed. The current player inventory is still at 1, there's no level requirement, and also no class requirement. The ring also adds 10 points of luck to the user. It grants a 5% increase in the drop rate and a 5% increase in money earned by the user. Hearing all of this, one guy concludes that the item is just bronze junk. As far as he's concerned, the ring is worth nothing more than 5 silver coins, and while he's doing his analysis, the lady beside him informs him that the Ring of Greed isn't the real item. Apparently, the bronze junk is just for show because the real value is in the girl auctioning it. Just then, Shen suddenly remembers that this item comes in only 2 grades, the bronze and then the diamond, which is extremely rare. The hero remembers that the diamond quality Ring of Greed directly increases the user's luck by 50 points, doubles dropped materials and money, as well as guarantees gold quality equipment from monsters level 30 and above. While he's thinking of this, the bald guy makes his bid of 5 silver coins for the bronze ring, and someone quickly outbids him by making an offer of 30 silver. Shen realizes that he might be able to evolve this bronze level 1 the diamond quality, and just when the ring is about to be sold to the bidder with 30 silver coins, the hero casual makes an offer of 1 gold coin. As you can imagine, everyone there is shocked that someone is offering gold for a junk ring like that, so they conclude that he must be crazy. Not surprisingly, our boy is not the only wealthy gamer in the vicinity, and this is confirmed when another player suddenly offers 10 gold coins for the bronze ring. At this point, all the others are left speechless by this insane display. They're certain that the 2 gold bidders have lost their minds, and this is when the second guy just smiles at Shen confidently. The hero is shocked that this ranger is going all out for the ring and wonders if the guy knows the true value like him. He thinks about this for a second but ultimately decides that it doesn't even matter since he's determined to leave this place with the ring. So, without any hesitation, he offers 30 gold coins for it. At this point, even the other ranger is shocked that he could make such a bid. Now, for the ranger, it's more of an ego matter than who actually wants the ring. So, he begrudgingly offers 50 gold coins, just so he can feel bigger. Hearing this bid, the organizers are so delighted to have such a generous customer in their midst. At this point, the ranger is confident that he's won the bidding contest, so he attempts to taunt Shen, calling him a kid and asking him the quality of his wallet. In response, the hero just casually makes an even bigger offer of 100 gold coins. He's probably tired of the back and forth by now, so he figures that he should just end the contest now. Even the guy on the stage is astounded by this, but he's still curious to see if anyone wants to bid higher. Clearly, nobody else there is crazy enough to try and outbid the Shadow Hunter, and as the item is finally about to be sold, the other bidders realize that the ranger will not be able to compete anymore. Sure enough, the deal is sealed and a message from the system informs our bid that 100 gold coins have been deducted for equipment the Ring of Greed. The hero wears a satisfied smile on his face, knowing that in 8 hours, he'll be able to evolve the ring and guarantee future profits. After losing the bidding contest, the ranger admits that Shen has guts. He also doesn't look happy about the outcome, and before finally leaving, he vows to remember the Shadow Hunter. After saying this, the sore loser walks away from the place, leaving our guy pretty dumbfounded. He wonders what the guy's deal is because he doesn't get why he'd hold a grudge over something like this. He also doesn't even know who the ranger is either, so he's pretty concerned because he knows that he can't play with stuff like this. His thoughts are suddenly interrupted when the hot lady that comes with the ring starts seducing him. She caresses his face, calling him handsome, and informs him that he belongs to her tonight. As you can imagine, Shen isn't a fan of this arrangement, so he's really flustered by it and asks her what she means. In response, she tells him not to play dumb and reminds him that he paid way more than the junk was worth, so she's sure that he only overspent to get her. The Shadow Hunter starts sweating nervously because he had no idea that there's such a rule. Seeing how tense he is, the lady tells him not to worry and assures him that she'll serve him well tonight, claiming that the experience is even better than what he would get in reality. She takes her mouth to his ear and whispers in there, reminding him that he also doesn't need to worry about any consequences, unlike the real world. At this point, he realizes that the angry ranger in the hat didn't offer that much gold for the ring because what he was actually after was the intense experience with the hot lady. With this in mind, Shen quickly stops the seductress and commends her physique before telling her that she can follow him later. Seeing that he finds her body appealing, she suggests that they get right to business, and before Shen can even respond, a creepy old man appears behind him. The lady is startled when she sees him and quickly asks who he is. In response, he just laughs like a weirdo and then reveals that he has a lot of good stuff he wants to auction. Hearing this, the Shadow Hunter asks to take a look, feeling pretty curious. It turns out that this old man thinks Shen is a fool for spending so much on junk earlier. Now, he's brought even worse junk, like leather armor, throne shoes, wind bow, and iron bullhorn to him because he thinks that the Shadow Hunter is a rich, naive boss. He wants to make a profit off him, but he has no idea who he's messing with. Shen is disgusted when he sees the garbage the old geezer has to offer. He can't believe the guy has the boldness to even show it off, and he even tries to sell a silver coin to him for 2,000 gold coins. The hero just declines them, calling them trash, and this pisses the old man off. He grabs Shen's robe and threatens to teach him a lesson. He demands an apology, claiming that he'll give our boy a beating. At this point, the hero gets pissed. He can't believe that the guy would actually lay a hand on him, so his countenance changes instantly. The look on his face immediately switches to a terrifying glare, and then he concludes that this scammer must be asking for death. That marks the end of episode 3 of this series. I hope you guys have been enjoying the regular coverage on this one as usual, and are looking forward to more, as there are only a few more chapters until we catch up to the latest one released. As always, if you enjoy my content, the best way to support me is to subscribe to the channel. Of course, if you want to go further, then there's always the option to sub to my Patreon or become a channel member as well. Don't forget to leave your comments down below on what you think about this manhwa, and I'll see you guys in future uploads. Until next time.